Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to call to order the February 12th, 2026 MARTA work session meeting. It is 12 p.m. May I have a motion to approve our minutes from the January 8th, 2026 work session? And a second. If there's no corrections or discussion, please vote. All right, the minutes have been approved. I'm going to turn the mic over to our interim general manager, CEO, Jonathan Hunt, for his report.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? And good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. In just a couple of short months, we'll be rolling out several key initiatives followed by the World Cup this summer, plus more construction projects slated for fall and post-World Cup. I'd like the board to know that MARTA is firing on all cylinders and we are full steam ahead. I want to first start out with inclement weather service in my remarks. First up, I want to give a big kudos to our staff for their dedication both during the Georgia's inclement weather events. It was a tough one for everyone. All of our operators, our station agents, and maintainers, the MPD team, as well as all of leadership remained focused on delivering service under uncertain weather conditions. I'm happy to report that we did not have any incidents with equipment failures or any injuries for either weather event. And congratulations to our staff for their well-managed preparation last month. Moving on, I want to go into our petty sales tax legislation, House Bill 1137. In support of MARTA's petty sales tax legislation, I met with state delegations for each of the 4 jurisdictions. I am also scheduled to meet with the majority and minority caucuses of each chamber of the legislature. I actually met with the House Minority Caucus yesterday, and that went well. Additionally, I met with numerous elected officials, and government affairs team is working hard to garner support for the same, so thank you to them. We are doing the work to see that this critical legislation from MARTA passes. Our bill, House Bill 1137, is being carried under the leadership of MARTA Chair Deborah Silcox, and is also co-signed by a bipartisan group of legislators, including the Atlanta State Delegation Chair, Inga Willis. The bill is assigned to the House Transportation Committee and will be heard next week. I'd like to move on to some initiatives in the South Downtown area, just south of our 5-Point Station. We recently met with representatives from South Downtown, APD, Selig Enterprises, Centennial Yards, MBS Stadium, GSU, Underground Atlanta, as well as State Farm Arena to coordinate a solution to folks loitering and creating unsafe conditions on property around 5-Point Station. I'm pleased to report that the groups have met numerous times and we came up with several creative solutions to improve security and policing in the area. We've already put in place many of those solutions with more to come. I want to give kudos to Chief Creer and his team for being accessible, actively engaging, joining many meetings with me and Deputy General Manager Allen and the community to drive problem solving. You should see those changes coming in the next few weeks as we continue our partnering there. Media coverage, the communications team has kept me busy amplifying all of MARTA's great work, from recording our weekly MARTA Minute to a CBS Atlanta exclusive on our CQ400 trains to a WANF interview on the improvements to our mobility service. We are appreciative of news outlets covering our newsworthy updates objectively, including around our Better Breeze program, 28% annual decrease in crime year over year in 2025, additional investments in increased policing presences, as well as our MARTA Hope outreach initiatives, increased funding around that. Extensive preparations being made ahead of this summer's FIFA World Cup and the launch of MARTA Reach on-demand service and the Next Gen Bus Network in April. We will continue to disseminate this information and other important customer updates and information through our own channels and with the help of various news media outlets. I do want to take a moment in my remarks here to address a story that was run in January in the AJC that suggests that MARTA, the city, and Atlanta Beltline are somehow colluding in secret to hide things from the public regarding streetcar East Extension project. Nothing could be further from the truth, and I explained that in an email to the editorial leadership of the AJC. For this body's benefit, I'd like to clear up the mischaracterization. The MARTA Atlanta program is governed by an intergovernmental agreement, an IGA, between MARTA, the City of Atlanta, and with respect to the projects that impact the Beltline, Atlanta Beltline Inc. The IGA was reviewed and approved by this body, City Council, and the governing body for the Atlanta Beltline prior to its execution. The MARTA Atlanta program, which includes the Streetcar East Extension, is governed by the working group with the title Program Governance Committee, or PGC, consisting of representatives from MARTA, the City of Atlanta, Atlanta Beltline Inc. The PGC is not a committee of the MARTA board or of City Council. It is a working group of executives from each of those bodies. It is no different than MARTA executives, Beltline executives and staff, or Atlanta executives and staff, meeting internally on matters which are not governed by open meetings requirements. The PGC's authority and purpose are clearly defined in the IGA between MARTA and the City of Atlanta. While PGC meetings are not publicly attended, they are not secret, nor is the work that the PGC conducts secret. The decision-making process have been transparent. Also, what's not a secret is the desire to reevaluate and reprioritize the projects within the MARTA Atlanta program, which is a process that individual partners as well as the PGC itself has been extremely open and transparent and vocal about over the past year. In fact, the IGA indicates that in 2025 or sooner, in the event of a significant financial disruption, for example, a global pandemic or extreme global inflation, and then every 5 years thereafter, the program will adopt an updated phasing plan incorporating the latest budget and scheduling information to ensure the program remains aligned to the MARTA constraints and the priorities of the then current day. The agreement adopted by the parties contemplates that there will be changes to the projects and phasing. So the announcements in 2025 are in line with the IGA. So any characterization that the working groups meetings are secret or reevaluation or reprioritization of any projects under the MARTA IGA is not in line with the IGA is simply wrong. The City of Atlanta has publicly presented its updated vision for the Beltline, and MARTA has consistently supported implementing the best transit solutions possible, as we do for all jurisdictional partners through collaborative and a transparent process. Once it was clear that the project reprioritization would occur, the PGC voted to pause on 2 feasibility studies, in lieu of continuing to expend taxpayer money in anticipation of a reprioritized project list. The decision falls squarely within the purview of the PGC as the governing body under the IGA. So let's talk about what was paused. 2 feasibility studies were underway. In short, they were looking at 1, alternative transportation modes that could be delivered on the Beltline, and 2, if a complete greenway, grass-embedded trackway was feasible. I'm oversimplifying just a touch in the interest of time, but those were the studies in broad strokes. And I want to clear up the notion that the project was halted in construction. We are not to that point yet. Construction was not halted. We are at roughly at 30% design. The board update that was much heralded in the article and in subsequent notes, much has been made about whether the decision to pause these 2 feasibility studies are significant changes that require MARTA board approval as the overall and ultimate oversight and approving entity of the MARTA program. Within the IGA, significant program changes are broadly defined in 3 categories. The first, a change in the implementation sequence of one project to the detriment of another, or not consistent with the approved sequencing plan. The decision to pause funding for these 2 feasibility studies did not alter the sequencing plan and did not detrimentally impact any other MARTA projects. 2, the budget increases or decreases the cost of a project or a project's contribution from the MARTA sales tax of 10% or more based upon the budget, the established budget after the completion of preliminary design. Our very early and rough estimates indicate the cost would be in the neighborhood of $250 million when we hit 30% design. At present, we have spent approximately $9 million on the Streetcar East Extension project, so the pause in spending neither increased nor decreased project costs in excess of $25 million, thus not triggering that provision. And third, as I noted previously, it relates to the program rephasing and reprioritization beginning in 2025. If there is a structured rephasing or reprioritization of projects that would go through the PGC, then be approved by the Atlanta members of this board and the MARTA board generally. So by the language of the IGA itself, it is not a significant change. Had it been a significant change, it would have gone through the necessary steps and would be before this body. So the PGC's decision was consistent with the IGA process, and the board notification wasn't required. However, MARTA is in the practice of updating its board on a variety of projects, even when it is not required. Final policy decisions, approvals related to the MARTA program rest with the City of Atlanta, and then ultimately this body. And we will continue to communicate outcomes and next steps as the city and the PGC move through the process of reprioritization. Madam Chair, I'm happy to take questions from the board on this, if any, but I would like to quickly move through our significant initiative updates and critical presentations, if that's okay.
Right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hunt on that matter? I think that was very thorough, very lawyerly. I do think we as a board take our obligations very seriously, and we are awaiting direction from the City of Atlanta on whether they would like us to make significant changes to the project list. So I know, the taxpayers want to know, the residents want to know. There are a lot of moving pieces, but we don't want to be spending money on projects that are not going to move forward or are going to move forward in a different direction, scope, any of that. So I expect that it won't be too much longer before we have some final direction from the city to move forward. Mr. Zagami.
This is not a question, maybe more of a request, but as I think about everything that was described, I think that the actions that were taken were aligned with the IGA. That totally is aligned. The second thing I think about is as the board sees information on projects, we generally see it on project progress, right? We're constantly talking about the next step in a project. And this kind of sits in an interesting place where it's not project progress, so it didn't come before the board. My one request or thought or recommendation might be that, as we continue to have PGC meetings, it might be good to just add to the next board meeting following the PGC, just an update from what was kind of discussed there. And I think that helps with, just giving the visibility, because, that is a working group. Those are the folks who really know what's going on the projects, and I think we don't want to impede that progress, and we totally, everything that we're working on doesn't need to be raised to the board, but it would be good just to know, like, key decisions and all that.
Happy to add it to my chair remarks.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think we would all appreciate that, because you're right, Jacob. If this was an affirmative step forward, we would know about it by, shovels in the ground or plans being announced, but, a different sort of decision, there's not an outward sign of the decision being made. So I think that would be great for the board and great for the public also, if going forward you could just give updates on what comes out of there. All right, turning the mic back over to you to talk about the exciting things coming our way.
Now I'd like to run through some updates on our significant near-term initiatives. I'll be brief to allow more time for two of our in-depth presentations on our Big Six projects. First one is Better Breeze. As of today, there are 18 stations under construction. By the end of the month, we'll have 38 stations under construction. Better Breeze will launch March 28th, and from March 28th through May 2nd of this year, both the current and new Breeze systems will be active. We are strongly encouraging patrons with stored value or trips on their cards to register their card and spend down their balances before May 2nd. Registering their existing card will make it easier to transfer your balances in the future. If you have a remaining balance after May 2nd, it can be transferred to a new registered Breeze account between May 2nd and October 30th of this year. Moving on to our new rail cars, our CQ400s. We are still targeting to have our new trains on hand and safety certified and revenue service in the first week of June prior to World Cup. There are now 4 train sets on property undergoing various stages of static and dynamic testing, and a 5th train car is expected to arrive next week. Although not listed on my report, with the streetcar, I'm happy to report that it's returned to service on February 3rd. While Georgia Power was performing their work, we took the time to complete a lot of maintenance on the system and are extremely happy about that. Turning to 5 Points Station transformation and rehab. On 5 Points, as this body knows, there's 2 projects currently happening concurrently. The transformation project, which includes demolition and deconstruction on the plaza level, and the rehab project on the platform level. As to the transformation project, the interior overhead protections have been completed with signage and lighting. We've relocated the MARTA Police Department to Ashby Station, and the MARTA Hope and Boston Found offices will also be relocated to our Ashby Station. We're partnering with Mercedes-Benz Stadium, State Farm, and other downtown stakeholders on an Atlanta-themed mural campaign that will envelop the outside of 5 Point Station and beautify that, and designing improvements for inside of the 5 Point Station during the rehabilitation project. With respect to the rehabilitation project, we have continued to make progress at the platform levels and still have a targeted completion of the rehab project prior to World Cup. We are also planning a tour of 5 Point for interested board members in the coming months. Summer Hill Rapid A Line, we've installed the first station canopy at the southern terminus at our Carter Station, which is the one closest to the connection with the Belt Line. 2 of the shelters for the downtown stops have been delivered 4 weeks ahead of schedule. I want to personally thank DGM Allen for joining me in snowy Detroit in December to work on expediting the same and seeing the fruits of that trip. Construction has begun on the platforms at City Hall and the Capitol, and that work is ongoing as I speak. As I shared with you previously, we're launching the Rapid A Line in 2 phases. Phase 1 will be started on April 16th of this year to align with the start of the next-gen bus network with the following. In the areas where construction has been completed, buses will operate in dedicated lanes with transit signal priority. In areas under construction, temporary bus stops located near stations will be used. The entire alignment will be open. Off-board fare payment will be available at completed BRT station stops, and we're discussing the feasibility on collecting fare payment on the temporary stops. Phase 2 is tentatively set for September 2026 at the completion of the BRT stations, and we're planning to hold a celebratory ribbon cutting at this time post-World Cup. The acceleration of active construction would not have been possible without the cooperation and assistance of the ATL-DOT Commissioner Cavanis and his team, as well as all of the hardworking folks in zoning, development, and permitting in the city. So thank you. Moving on to our next-gen bus network update, I would like to invite Andy Profall and the team from NextGen, along with Ryan Van Sickle, our Director of Technical Services and Planning, to provide you with NextGen bus network update and their presentation.
All right.
I think I said April 16th. By mistake, it's April 18th on the Summer Hill Phase 1 launch. So if I misspoke there, I apologize. Ryan?
All right. Thank you. And good afternoon, Chair Ide, Mr. Hunt, Ms. Allen, members of the board. I'm Ryan Van Sickle, our Director of Technical Services and Service Planning, and I'm happy to be here with Andrew Pofall, our NextGen Implementation Program Manager, to provide you an update this morning. Before we get started, just wanted to highlight we are 23 days away from the start of the MARTA Reach on-demand service on March 7th, and we are 65 days away from the launch of the full NextGen bus network on April 18th, 2026. So very exciting times and lots going on. In this presentation, we'll give you an overview of the network and how it was developed, talk a bit about the MARTA Reach service and how that will work, and give you an update on launch activities. So to start off with the overview of the network, many of you may be aware that this is a generational change for MARTA's bus service. And unlike our typical service change process, which is iterative, kind of evolutionary, it takes some time for smaller changes, this is a large, we think the largest and most comprehensive system redesign of its kind, resulting in the largest service change that we think MARTA has ever undertaken. We've been working on this project over the last 5 years or so, starting in 2021 with the project's kickoff. We'll be short with the history on this, but at the very beginning we developed 2 alternative visions for the network and presented those to the public and to the board. One of those was a smaller, more streamlined network with lots and lots of frequent service. When we talk throughout this presentation, frequent service will always mean every 15 minutes or better bus arrivals. The other alternative was a more geographically expansive, larger network, but with the same budget, and so at the expense of a lot of the frequency that you would see in the other vision. Public feedback on those concepts really pushed in the direction of favoring more frequency and the possibility of higher ridership. And so the board provided us policy guidance in 2023, setting the balance for how many resources should be dedicated towards frequency and ridership and coverage. So the new network will take us in a big step towards a more frequent system with a lot more service in frequent areas, and also while also covering key areas of coverage as well. Throughout late 2023 and throughout 2024, we worked to develop the network. Certainly plenty of internal work with a wide variety of MARTA colleagues, but we also included and workshopped with just about every city and county that we serve, as well as a number of other stakeholders to get a large array of feedback into the developed proposals. And we took those proposed service changes to the public starting in December of 24 and throughout early 2025. I'll talk a little bit more about the engagement on the next slide, but we got a lot of feedback that helped us refine the network, take it through public hearings, and bring it back to the board last summer when it was approved. Since June 2025, when the board approved the final network, then we've really been kind of on the racetrack to launch, and we'll talk more about those activities today too. There have been 4 distinct phases of public engagement throughout this process. The first was around those 2 alternative kind of visions for the network, the frequent and ridership focused network and the geographic coverage network. There were 6 meetings. Important to note that those public meetings were held during the earlier stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, so despite the conditions, we still did try to have face-to-face interactions with neighbors and riders. There were 26 stakeholder briefings, and there was an extended survey effort that got over 8,500 responses from the public. More than half of those were in person on our transit system, with the remainder being from the web online. The draft network engagement phase took place after we developed a draft and all of the proposals for the service changes. We had over 50 public meetings. About half of those were in person all over the service area, with, again, a round of stakeholder and elected official briefings. We also had in-reach efforts to make sure that we were hearing from our MARTA colleagues about these proposed changes, especially from our operations team and our operators. And of course, that also included a survey component to get us feedback. We received over 4,000 written survey responses to the proposals with suggestions, some support, and also some other things to look at that helped us refine the network to the final state. That final network was taken to the public in May through a series of 6 public hearings throughout our service area. And after its approval and the launch preparations began, we really started the launch engagement phase in December. As of now, we have an increasing roster of activities and materials throughout the network. Currently this month, we have over 20 open houses taking place at our stations and at locations in the community like libraries and community centers, and a wide array of rider notifications that will continue to grow until the launch. Andrew will cover some of those examples a little bit later in the presentation. So just as a reminder of the system today and kind of what we're evolving from, we have a system of 113 kind of traditional fixed bus routes. Across those 113 routes, this map, which is admittedly a bit blurry, you will see frequent service in 5 places. If you can see red lines in this map, that's where we currently have service running every 15 minutes or better. There's service running every 20 minutes or so on 9 additional routes in the existing network, and we do have a small subset of routes that operate only during the weekday rush hours, during the weekday peaks. Those are really targeted towards kind of traditional 9 to 5 commutes. And the entire system today is fixed route service, so we do not have any on-demand. The next-gen network, the final network that was approved, includes 81 fixed bus routes, including the Rapid A line. It has frequent service in 17 corridors, more than 3 times as many as today's network. 20-minute service in more than 11 on 11 more routes. So we have about a third of the new bus network that will run every 20 minutes or more often throughout the day. In addition to those, there are other frequency improvements that are not called out here, but you will see a number of dark blue lines on the map. Those are all routes that will run every 30 minutes, a notable improvement in many areas from the 40, 45, or 60-minute service that's provided today. And of course, the whole system, with one exception, will run Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week. And when we say flatter frequencies at the bottom, we really mean more consistent frequency throughout the day. So this network is designed to be useful for, of course, traditional work commutes, but we really designed it to be useful for all kinds of other trips. When you look at a schedule, if you see 20 minutes on the schedule, a 20-minute frequency during the rush hour, you're likely to see that during the midday at noon, evening at 7 p.m., or on Saturday and Sunday, really opening up the possibility of the network to be used for a lot more trips for work at other times, evening shifts, trips to the grocery, school, and all kinds of other purposes. Talked a bit about the more frequent services and consistent service, but there are several other key features in the network that really help make it efficient and more powerful. One of those is simpler routes with fewer transfers. Many of the new routes were designed specifically to be simpler, easier to understand, and in some cases we were able to combine routes together to eliminate the need for people to transfer from one bus to another. There are a number of new crosstown connections, for example, in the new network that allow people to go from one side of a rail line to the other without having to get off at a station and change buses to continue down the same street. There are certainly opportunities to transfer in the new network, and in fact there are several places where it's been designed to offer timed transfers. At those time transfer locations, the schedules have been built specifically to bring all of the buses together at the same time so that passengers can get off of their first bus, walk down the sidewalk, get on the next bus, and depart within just a few minutes. In those places, we are also working to make infrastructure improvements to ensure that we have sidewalks and other amenities there so that passengers have a comfortable and safe environment to make that transfer. The new on-demand service Reach is a big part of this network as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail in the following slides, but together all of these things allow us to take people more places in less time across the network. As far as outcomes, the big picture and one of the biggest items here is the number of people who will have access to frequent transit service running every 15 minutes or more often. So on the whole, across our service area, the NextGen bus network will provide nearly 3 times as many people as we have today with access to that frequent service within walking distance. This, of course, provides significant improvements to all kinds of things that I think I mentioned a moment ago: jobs, access to groceries, education, healthcare, and more. And by the numbers, starting kind of on the bottom right of this slide, you see the average person in this new network will have access to 22% more jobs within a 1 hour's travel time on transit. On the map in the center, you see an array of green and tan dots. And I want to point out those green dots represent places in the network where residents will have an increase in access to jobs for that 1 hour. So that's really showing where that number, that 22% increase, plays out across the system. It's a widespread improvement. We also see an increase in the number of universities and colleges that people can access of about 21% for a 1 hour travel time on transit. A very important outcome is 27% more grocery stores are reachable to the average person in our new network within a 1 hour travel time, really important for communities that may not have very many food options. 31% more hospitals with emergency care. Talked a bit about the number of residents who will have new access to frequency. And overall, the new bus network will provide access to MARTA, period, to an additional 6% of our service area population compared to today. So that's a bit of the background on MARTA on the NextGen network, but getting specific into the Reach component, the MARTA Reach service will launch 6 weeks before NextGen on March 7th. This is a new type of service. It's an on-demand, curb-to-curb service operating in 12 zones. And that additional lead time with launching early will allow people to learn how it works, download the app if that's how they prefer to make their reservation, and really understand the service before the rest of the network starts to change around it. There will be 12 zones shown in the graphic here, and the service will be curb-to-curb, meaning that the vehicle will come to you and take you to the destination that you put in. It will pick you up within about 30 minutes of making that request, and there are several ways I'll talk about in a second about how you can do that. And generally, these zones are designed to replace fixed route coverage, our traditional bus service, in places where it's hard to operate, where we have lower densities and there's a need for transit service, but the ridership may be lower and more spread out, and where it may be more difficult to run a traditional large bus. This will use a different kind of vehicle that I'll show you in just a moment. In addition to being useful for travel around each of these individual zones, the MARTA Reach zones will also provide last and first mile connections to MARTA service for people who want to travel farther. So every one of those 12 zones connects either to a MARTA rail station or to a frequent bus route running every 15 minutes or better, or to a major transfer point in the network, like those time transfer locations I mentioned, where there will be a variety of options for people who want to travel further. The Reach vehicle is shown here. Instead of a traditional big bus, it'll be a 7-passenger van. It's a Dodge Ram ProMaster. It'll have 7 seats, wheelchair positions, and each one of these vehicles will be outfitted with cameras, with a wheelchair ramp, and also with a bike rack. There are going to be 3 different ways that passengers can book their trips. We expect a lot of people will download the Reach app, which will fold into the future MARTA application, the new MARTA app in the future. But a lot of folks who may be used to using existing ride-sharing services will find this familiar. You can also use the MARTA Reach website, which will allow you to book a trip online through a computer. And if you prefer not to use any of those digital means, you can also place a traditional phone call, and it'll connect you with somebody who can book the trip for you. To give you an example of kind of the trip and the passenger flow, let's say that a customer wants to request a ride from the Community Grounds coffee shop in South Atlanta. In this case, they're going to Lakewood Station. So they would open the app, the website, or make the phone call, and they would request the ride to pick them up at Community Grounds. They'd also punch in their destination of Lakewood Station. Now, the software behind the Reach service would assign the trip to one of 3 vans that are scheduled to operate in that zone, probably the one most close by. And it will provide the operator with the most efficient routing available at that moment to get there. So it does factor traffic and other real-time considerations into how it tells our operators to travel. The operator would pick up the customer within a time window provided by the app, and then the software would provide them routing to the Lakewood station. In this case, the operator would drive the customer to Lakewood, and they'd arrive on time, of course. And if there is no other trip in queue for that operator, then they would have an opportunity to lay over at Lakewood Station until the next request comes in. You'll notice here, in this case, Lakewood Station is a little bit outside of the shaded boundary, which includes most of the Lakewood area and part of Metropolitan Parkway. I mentioned those connections to MARTA Rail and frequent bus routes, and we do have each zone designed that it will jump out of the zone to make that connection, if necessary, at specific points that we've identified. And so that's a summary of how the Reach service will work, and from here, I'll turn it over to Andrew Pofall to talk about our launch activities.
Yes, thank you, Ryan. So my name is Andrew Pofall, as Ryan said. I am the Implementation Program Manager for the NextGen bus network. So Ryan has given a lot of background about NextGen and MARTA Reach. I'm here to talk about specifically what are we doing internally to prepare ourselves for April 18th and for March 7th. So the first thing I want to touch on is how are we communicating this out to the public? So our outreach campaign really started in December when we began to install temporary bus stop signs and announce the April 18th date. From there, we moved into January, started doing some social media, some ads started showing up onto the system, but now we have kind of entered into the February period where we're really starting to get out and go and talk to the customers and talk to the people about what's happening. So as Ryan alluded to, we are holding 25 open houses across the MARTA system, and in the community, we're actually planning on adding a 26th open house here soon for the opportunity for folks to come to us and for us to talk to customers in the stations. Then in March and April, we are going to be doing what we are calling station pop-ups. So right now, we're at a stagnant place in a station. You can come talk to us. For those pop-ups, we're coming to you. We're coming to the bus customers. We're going to be walking up and down the bus bays, handing out flyers, getting on buses, talking to people. Those pop-ups are really focused on our high ridership stations, but then to complement that, we are also working on what we are calling street teams, and these teams will actually help us fill in the gaps where we're not able to get to every single station or onto every single bus to try and make sure that every single customer knows April 18th, your bus route is going to be changing with NextGen. Which brings me to some of the materials that we are using for outreach. As you can see, our message, and I hope that you have seen the message on the system, your bus route is changing April 18th, 2026. We're keeping that consistent through our social media communications. We've got bus posters, so every single bus in the system is going to get installed with a poster that tells you April 18th, your bus route is changing. And then on the right, you can see the rail cars and station ads. This is just a smattering of some of the materials that we have. And then lastly, I want to highlight the fact sheets and the route crosswalks. These are the primary things that we are handing out to customers. That fact sheet gives you all the stuff that Ryan has talked about in a really, really short form, gives you the website, gives you the date. The route crosswalk, what that does is it allows a customer to look at what my old route is and see what new routes in the new network do I need to be looking up and understanding so that I know where I need to go on April 18th and afterwards. So that's some of the printed stuff. We also have materials and tools that are digitally available. So everything we've talked about today, all of the stuff that I'm covering, the things that Ryan are covering, itsmarta.com/nextgen is the best place for our customers and for the board to go to learn about what's going on in real time. We have 2 rider tools available right now on the website. One is a trip planner. So if you've used our regular trip planner to do trip planning with the existing network, we have a next-gen specific trip planner where a customer can put in, I am going from point A to point B, and it will tell you how you would be able to use the new network to be able to make that trip. One thing I want to highlight with the next-gen trip planner is that it incorporates that on-demand service in a way that other agencies that provide on-demand service are not able to. So we are very unique in the ability to offer your trip planning to be able to incorporate how do I use the MARTA Reach service to get to the fixed route service to then continue my trip on. Then on the right is the Find Your Route tool. It's essentially a digital version of that crosswalk. I can go and punch in, I ride the route 19. Here are the routes that I need to look at to try and figure out how am I going to take a trip in this new network. Next, and the other more really visible thing that customers are going to see are changes at the bus stop. So as I mentioned, in December, we started installing temporary bus stop signs. We have installed over 6,200 signs across the network on stops that are being impacted by NextGen. And what these signs tell a customer, and the example in that dot in the top left, is that before April 18th, you need to keep looking up at the information that's on the existing sign. That's going to be what's in service. But after April 18th, you need to look down. This is what's going to be in service after that date. After we do launch, we will come back through, take those temporary signs off the bus stops and update the top so then the stops will be regular and normal and have the same information. We are also working on relocating amenities and moving amenities so that those amenities are going to be lined up where our riders are going to be and where our network is going to be in the future. Another thing that we are doing are infrastructure improvements. So we have a program of 49 improvements across the network that fall into 4 buckets. Intersection geometry modifications, essentially these are to make sure that our buses can safely make turns. One of the big things we did when we were designing the network, drafting the network, and finalizing the network, we're testing turns, testing the buses being able to make it around on these new routes. And so we've been working really hard to make sure that some places where we needed to change the intersections, we're doing that. Next are those transfer points. So Ryan alluded to that when he was talking about the benefits of the network. We're doing infrastructure work to make sure those transfer points are comfortable and safe for people to be at. Modifications to our existing stations and park and rides. The example you see on the screen is we need to make some modifications to the bus bay at Avondale. We were out cutting concrete earlier this week to get that station ready for the new network and all the new service that's going to come in there. What we have deemed of these 49, and the last one is pedestrian improvements, excuse me. So making sure bus stops are accessible, safe for customers to be waiting at. 16 of 49 of those improvements are what we have deemed launch critical. We must get them done before April 18th. We are on track to doing that. And the program will continue for the rest of this fiscal year and into next fiscal year to finish everything up. The one thing I want to really highlight here is that we've had really great, strong coordination and partnership with our local jurisdictions in getting through the review processes and the permit processes. So I want to say thank you to them. They've been really, really great partners. Now, a lot of that is the external stuff, the things that you are going to see, customers are going to see. Some of the internal things that we have to do is make sure that our bus operators know how to drive this new network when it starts on April 18th. So we have a whole operator preparation program that's underway. It has a couple of different prongs. First, printed training manuals. So every single operator has received a printed manual of their division that has every single route and the turn-by-turn instructions on how you can drive that route to help them learn what the new network is going to look like. If those operators want to look at all of the divisions, there are manuals available at their garages, and all of this information is on the public website at itsmarta.com/nextgen. So if an operator needs to, thinking about it, while they're at home, they can go to the website and find the route profiles and the turn-by-turn instructions that are in those manuals. Next is we have been offering route familiarization training to our operators. They have the ability to go out and actually ride along on the new routes to get eyes on, see where they're going to be driving, making sure that they're going to know where to go on that first day. And then the last thing, a lot of the things I've talked about is preparation before. On the day of launch, we are in process of upgrading all of the oldest buses in our fleet. So the entire fleet will have vehicle turn-by-turn instructions on the MDT that the operator looks at, so they will have GPS instructions. So we're adding lots and lots of layers to make sure that we're ready to go on the 18th. The last thing I want to touch on are the mobility impacts. So mobility service is provided within 3/4 of a mile where we have a fixed route bus service. That is the standard that we followed is an FTA standard. We will continue to do that through the next gen bus network. Now, when we do change the network through some of the changes that Ryan had talked about, incrementally over time, sometimes that buffer will move and some people will fall outside of that and they will no longer have mobility service. With this big change, what we did is we analyzed and we looked at how many people are going to be affected by such a large network change. We've identified 60 residential addresses that are now going to fall outside of the mobility service area as part of NextGen. But instead of on April 18th, not allowing them to continue to have service like we would do through the normal process, we are offering 1 year of additional services to those locations after launch. So from April 18th, 2026 to April 18th, 2027, those folks will continue to receive mobility service. We're saying this here at the board meeting, but mobility is directly reaching out to every single person who is impacted by this so that we can make sure that they're aware, they're ready, and they are prepared. And so I am going to finish with reiterating we are only 23 days away from MARTA Reach. We are 65 days away from the full network launch. The hope of this presentation was to show a lot of the work that staff is doing to prepare us for this, but we also want to highlight the fact that the 18th, the 19th, and 20th, those first 3 days are going to be tough. We're doing a lot of work, but even if we get 99.5% of it correct, that means there are still customers who will be impacted negatively, so we're doing everything we can so our customers can be prepared and we can be prepared. It's marta.com/nextgen, best place to go. Thank you very much, and I think we'll take questions. Oops.
This has been great. I think it is reassuring to see how much work you all have done. And like in my neighborhood, I think all 4 routes are impacted. It's 26, 36, and 809. I think all of them are pretty significantly impacted. So I have been seeing the signs up at the bus stops, which is great. But I would like a little bit more clarity for some of those routes. The routes are being streamlined. Like the 809 is just not going to, go through Armour Idley, and it's going to go more direct and all that. So that's pretty clear to me that the stop that I get on, I can still get on there. On the stops that are not going to get service at all, I'm assuming that the signage up there now is telling people that. Once we get to the date where they stop getting service, how will people know who are being, what exactly information will be given to them of the bus is no longer stopping here and the closest place to get on MARTA is X, or do they just need to go online to figure out the closest place to get on? And the same thing like the 36 that's being eliminated, I don't know what's going to be the closest to them on that. So for the few people who are not benefiting from this, will you just go over that again of how they're going to figure out how to find service?
Yeah, so that stop closure sign essentially says that there will no longer be service at this stop on April 18th. And additionally on that sign, they can go to the digital tools and they can do it online, but it also has customer services number.
Okay.
So for our customers who, you're not super tech savvy and you need help understanding what that sign means and what this change means for me, you can call customer service. Ryan literally ran upstairs from giving a briefing to our customer service agents because we're working really, really hard to make sure they have all the same information and know how to communicate with the customer.
If you find yourself standing on Johnson Road at the bus stop and you're like, oops, this says bus no longer comes here, you can call customer service and they can help tell you, what might be the closest bus stop to you now.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then in that situation of when will those amenities go away for the, I know some are gonna, but for the ones that are closed, I assume for some period of time, you're gonna keep signage up saying, bus is no longer, coming here, but when will all of the, shelters, benches, signage go away for the eliminated stops?
That's a good question. So we anticipate it will take between 4 and 6 months afterwards to go physically pull every single sign out, pick up every single shelter, and move it to another location, pull out every bench. So it'll be a process to go through and touch all of those locations that are being impacted.
Okay. And I have been more aware of the stops that are having their service changed, but is there signage out now for new stops that are not current stops?
Yes.
And are there amenities out, or that hasn't quite come yet?
Yeah, so there are actually, we only showed one type of sign. There are 4 types of signs that you might see out there. One of them is a green sign. It is new service.
Okay.
The second type is that service change sign that's orange. It says, look up, this is what's happening. Look down, this is what's happening. There's the red stop closure sign, which means service is no longer coming. And then there is a MARTA reach closure sign. But because, as Ryan mentioned, reach is curb to curb, we no longer are going to have stops. You don't need to have a stop specifically. So we're actually going to pull those stops out, but those have signs on there explaining, this bus stop will go away, but you are going to have MARTA reach service, and directs you on how to access the MARTA reach service.
Okay, gotcha. All right, Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Andrew and Ryan, for the presentation. The route crosswalk tool that you have listed on the outreach materials, I think, will be highly beneficial. But I do recommend that it be displayed more prominently. Currently, when you go on the website, if you're on just on the MARTA.com site and it's not next gen, you have to go through 3 clicks and it's called a route crosswalk. And even though it says, and I quote, old routes to new routes, people may still miss that. And so, especially at this time when people are trying to figure out what their route will be, if they can just click on the graphic itself that shows that it's demonstrating that one route is going to another or what's being canceled, I think that would be really helpful until people are comfortable with the transition.
Yeah, that's a great comment. That's pretty easy for us to do. We'll make sure that gets in place by the end of the week.
All right, Mr. Hunt, I think, had a comment clarification.
Just one clarification on the report. You noticed the beautiful blue vans. Those are Dodge Ram ProMaster vans that we're going to be putting in place for our MARTA Reach service. I've been alerted that there is a recall on those Dodge ProMaster vans, something along the lines of a fan cooling module. It does affect the vehicles that we have and have purchased, so those are going to be sent out to have the recall repair made. It may impact service and that they may not be able to get it back. There's roughly 300,000 of these vehicles nationwide, all going in for the exact same repair. So not ideal, but we do have other modes of transport to provide MARTA Reach service in a lot of vehicles. So thankfully we have that. Just wanted to make sure that clarification was in there.
All right.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Dr. Bolton Harris.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Obviously, it's a lot of years of work coming down to this moment. One of the questions I have is about the marketing strategy for potential new customers, because as you all have made adjustments to these routes, maybe someone who wasn't going to take MARTA before, now that they see there's a route in their neighborhood, is there something that you're doing at these new routes, where if they're at the grocery store, to be able to communicate, hey, MARTA's coming to your area?
Yeah, that's a great question. We, right now, as you kind of noticed, the primary marketing is really focused on making sure that every single customer, whether they are gaining service, losing service, having their service changed, knows on that first day. But we do have some marketing specifically focused towards what we're calling the high frequency network. So Ryan talked about those 17 corridors. We think those are the most primed to be able to be bringing in more customers. And so we've been working on some social media stuff, and we've been talking to some partners about doing some advertising around that high frequency network to complement the making sure that every customer right now knows.
information for those communities that are saying like, hey, I've got a route coming, didn't know about it, didn't get an opportunity to talk about it? Is there some type of place they can go to comment on that?
Yeah, so one thing that I want to be very clear with is that we can't change the network leading into April 18th at this point. But we are still taking feedback, and we continue to change service over time. And so one, coming to community events and talking specifically to staff about what those concerns are, that is one avenue. Another avenue that we are asking people to go through is through customer service. Because customer service, we have set up the CRM system. They are specifically tagging anything related to the Next Gen network so that we can keep an eye on the places where we are hearing from customers in advance to make sure that those questions or those concerns, what does that actually look like when we start operating, and how do we need to adjust based on those?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Frierson.
Yeah, thank you for the information. I think whenever you have these type of changes in the system, everybody who used to routine are impacted.
Yep.
And it's really difficult, I understand, and challenging when you're trying to communicate to everybody about these changes. But I do say that I think you did a great job in putting all the information on the bus stations and at the bus stops and the stands. They're across the routes. I've been there and I've seen some of the signage. And I think that's a great way to notify riders that these changes are coming. I know I've still gotten questions from people who call me about the changes in their route. And I'm hoping that they will reach out to MARTA and understand that when this change happens, if they impact, they still may be part of this demand zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be able to receive service that can get them to a bus stop or to the train station.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the residents will utilize that opportunity. So in my particular space, Route 74, Route 32, and Route 15 are impacted.
Mm-hmm.
And those all will be rolled into the 303. All right, so, and I think that I'm hoping that the residents will use that opportunity to use MARTA Reach, right?
Yeah.
So with all that being said, are you still entertaining and having some type of meetings with the residents to just keep them informed about what's happening in this space?
Yeah, so we recommend we're holding the community open houses. That is the best place for community members to come and speak with the team and let us know, and for us to be able to help you. That trip planner, that has been our best friend out in the network, because somebody will say, I ride this route in this specific place. I've got it pulled up on my phone. So, okay, where are you trying to go? And we'll put it in there and I'll help them plan their trip. If you go to itsmarta.com/nextgen, there's a tab, or directly itsmarta.com/nextgenengage. Everywhere we will be. In February is currently up there as we finalize the schedules for March and April. Every location that you will be able to find somebody talking about, specifically about NextGen, will be on that page to give as much of an opportunity for folks to learn about what's going on as we can.
Okay, great. And I said, you have done a great job with the signs and the surveys that we've done, but you're going to find somebody that's going to say, I wasn't aware of it, but we want to do as much as we can.
We know, and on April 18th, we know that there will be people who walk up to the bus and are confused and don't know what's going on, and we're preparing for that specifically.
Thank you.
And even if you miss the meeting that's closest to your neighborhood, you can go to any of the
Correct.
regional meetings, and staff will be prepared to talk about the whole system.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. All right, Jacob.
Perfect. 3 comments, 2 questions. Comment number 1, Ryan, Andrew, thank you. Thank you. Like, I know this has been worked on for a very long time. You're literally doing something that nobody's done in a generation. And I know that y'all have worked really hard. I know there are a lot of people who aren't in this room who are working really hard. But I would just emphasize the fact that we have a bus network that hasn't changed this substantially in an entire generation. And I know that in my mind it took too long. I was like, we've been working on this 5-6 years, but it didn't. It was a generational change, and those things take time. So thank you for all the hard work. And I know, in particular, Ryan, you've been here since probably the very first discussion, and to be here to make it happen. So just thank you wholeheartedly, thank you. 2, it's a generational change. In 1971, about 1 million people lived in the 5-county area. Today, more than 5 million people do. Our network does not fit the city. It can't. Too many things have changed in the last, call it 50 years plus. And we correctly. So this is the right work, it's the good work. And then that brings me to my third comment. I really like smarter, faster, better. I actually like the last word the most, better. This new network is better, it's not perfect. And I think as we go forward, we're gonna hear a lot of feedback around all the ways that it's not perfect. And that is right and justified, but it's better. And this is all about moving us forward. So just, as we continue to listen to the community, I think let's listen, but let's also realize that we have a better network and we're gonna continue to make it better, but we don't have a perfect network, and that can never be the goal. If it is the goal, then you don't change things for more than a generation.
Yeah.
So those were the comments. Just two questions. One, around piloting. So having launched a number of microtransit services, really great companies have great technology, but in the end, until you put it in the wild, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So I'd love to just hear, ahead of it going live, how are we piloting the software? Are we involving any volunteers to kind of go out there before we go live, test out, you can have mock apps and things like that, but are we doing anything before day one to make sure we're going to feel really good operationally when we go live?
So we're doing a lot of internal testing specifically with the system and seeing how it's going to work and doing a lot of those tests. But also a big part of the reason why we're doing 6 weeks in advance of larger next gen is so that we can get it out in the wild before the larger network changes. Because we expect to hopefully be able to catch most of the issues that are going to present themselves. One thing that we've talked about internally, we've talked about with the business and ops committee, is that we have lots of information from lots of other peers, but how are the people of Atlanta going to use this system? What are they going to do? What types of trips are they going to be taking? How do we need to shift the parameters? That 6 week period is going to be really intense for us for watching to make sure that it's set up properly. So then on the 18th, it's running at full steam. So then when somebody goes from having a fixed route service to having a reach service, they're confident in us that we're going to pick them up, and then we do pick them up, and it is a really good service. It's a better service.
Well, maybe my one recommendation there would be, I call them soft launches. That's what you call them. It's kind of a soft launch period. I would strongly recommend some staff members sit down on some of these vehicles and ride around and ask questions.
Yep.
The software is great, but it doesn't know sometimes that there's a right turn that's closed here that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's a really poor rider experience, or you can't get down this road. And those are things that you kind of only figure out in the wild.
Yep.
You really see it. And then the second thing is, do we have a minimum age to be able to ride the service, or is it similar to, what's our policy?
So our policy, we're sticking with the fixed route policy today. So there is not a minimum age. The way the system works, it's account-based, so you have to have an account to be able to ride. When you're agreeing to your terms of service, if you're under 18, you're essentially stating that you have consent from a parent or guardian to be able to ride the service. So policy-wise, same as fixed route, there isn't an age limit.
So then my only recommendation there is, in other places, one of the biggest ridership groups, surprises everybody all the time, is middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Yep.
Like, they will use this like nobody's business to get to their friends' houses and, and get to school and stuff like that. So I would also, like, as we're thinking about marketing, to the extent that we can get to any schools that are in these zones and put materials, like, it's a great ridership base, it's a great group, they're tech forward, and they'll use this to get around their community in very meaningful ways, and it can be a great ridership base as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
And Jacob, I really appreciate your comment about better and not perfect, because I think too many times, perfect becomes the enemy of the good. But I think this system is not just better, I think it's a whole lot better. So I would ask people to be patient. I mean, us as board members, we're going to get comments. Our jurisdictional partners are going to get comments, and we've got to get it up and running. And call customer service and let them know. But we're not going to delay the launch to make sure that we get every single last possible concern met right now, which I hate to say that, but it will never get launched if we do that. But you all still will continue to collect, and over time there will be tweaks and adjustments, but we've got to get something up and running, and it is a whole lot better. So I appreciate that. Sarah.
Just one comment. Number one, great job. Extremely thoughtful on the rollout and communication. Again, no, there's never going to be perfect, but I think you guys have done a really, really good job. Just one comment. The interactive map on the website, it still shows proposed route. I don't know, since they are pretty much locked in,
Yep.
maybe it's time to change the verbiage to new route.
Yes, that is a great comment. We'll have that fixed by the end of the week.
All right, Segura.
Jacob's comment about the use of MARTA Reach by middle schoolers and high schoolers made me think back to previous requests to consider having some sort of K through 12 student fare that's not tied to a school having to buy bulk passes. With the new software and with the new fare system, with being able to have your account online, not necessarily having to have a specific card, this seems like this might be an opportunity to look at having some sort of K through 12 student fare that is not tied to them having to go directly to the school or have the school purchase a bulk order of cards, thus growing our base and growing loyalty to the brand and the transit service, and developing riders that will go on until their adulthood.
Good, did you get that? Sean?
We agree. And yeah, so there is as you know, as we're looking at everything that could possibly change, and that's now possible with our new fare system, we are undergoing a fare policy study. And so we're looking at every different type of activity or structure that's possible for us. And we will come back to the board at some time, because those things require board action, and come with recommendations on those types of adjustments.
All right, Ben?
I'm sorry, just last question, as far as the app for Reach, when will it launch? So people can go ahead and, if they're ready to get going, just to have it ready for March 7th.
I don't have a firm date yet. It will be in advance. If you go to itsmarta.com/reach, that is the first place that we will put it. We will also be doing a social media post to push it out. We want to be able to also offer the phone number at the same time. That's part of it. So to be determined.
And I apologize for my phone ringing, but that was my 15-year-old wanting to know if I would drive her somewhere this afternoon. And thankfully, she goes to school within a new Reach zone, so that is ideal. That will be solving my problems there. Mr. Hunt, anything else?
Want to move on to our World Cup readiness? Thank you both so much. Last month you heard from John Gordon, Director of Customer Engagement, about our World Cup readiness. Today he'll provide you with a supplemental update. This will be, in the interest of time, a shorter update. And then next month and going forward, you're going to get the full kit and caboodle each time, because it'll be only 3 updates before World Cup. John?
All right. Good day, Chair Hyde, Mr. Hunt, Ms. Allen, and members of the board. I'm John Gordon, Director of Customer Engagement. I appreciate the opportunity to provide another update regarding MARTA's FIFA World Cup planning and readiness. Can I get my slides, please? Next slide. Next slide. All right, the past few weeks have been pivotal for our World Cup alignment. On February 10th and 11th, we deepened our integration with the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau, ACVB, and participated in the South Metro Development Panel. Crucially, our leadership team completed NIMS 402 training this week, reinforcing our emergency response framework at the highest levels. Looking ahead, we are entering a high-velocity period of planning. Today, MARTA participated in a virtual media session hosted by the host city Marcom team to refine hospitality messaging, all leading up to the 100 Days Out press conference in March. Finally, I'm pleased to report a major milestone. The 11 Host Cities Transit Agency Coalition has secured $100.25 million in federal funding. These funds are strictly earmarked for World Cup operations and will be managed through a reimbursement process. Next slide, please. By the March deadline, MARTA will formally submit our comprehensive mobility details to the FIFA Mobility Playbook. Our strategy is built on 4 pillars of operational excellence. Rail, we are augmenting rail services to 5-minute headways. Bus operations, we will stage a minimum of 30 bus for rapid response fleet and L vans across 5 strategic stations to mitigate any service disruptions. For mobility services, I mentioned this last presentation, but I wanted to reiterate this. We are ensuring a seamless experience for international guests by providing temporary ADA eligibility for those with existing home jurisdiction certifications. As far as human capital, our transit ambassadors will provide up to 12 hours a day coverage on match days and non-match days. Comprehensive training begins in May. Once our Better Breeze and Next Gen Bus Network transit ambassador assignments have concluded. Next slide, please. Next slide. Our security readiness is being tested through rigorous live-scale simulations. On January 26th, MARTA PD Special Operations conducted a successful simulated train assault at Armour Yard for the UASI live-scale exercise. Next slide. We followed this on February 4th at the Georgia World Congress Center, participating in a TSA-led active shooter tabletop exercise. These drills focus specifically on the SEC district station and multi-agency coordination, ensuring that if a crisis occurs, our response is unified and immediate. Next slide. We are maximizing our capital delivery resources to ensure our system looks and performs at a world-class level. At the airport station, we have already upgraded the paid concourse flooring and are bringing a second elevator online to handle the influx of international travelers. While work is ongoing at Vine City, that station is undergoing a total refresh, including ceiling replacements, upgraded lighting, and new landscaping to ensure the gateway to the stadium reflects the best of Atlanta. Next slide. Our final focus is on customer experience through technology. We are currently installing MARTA's new digital backbone upgraded station phones, as seen here at Garnett Station, to improve both safety and communications. These efforts, from the continuous progress of the 5 Points Beautification Initiative to our Better Breeze rollout, represents our second major briefing on World Cup planning and readiness. We remain fully committed to operational excellence as we prepare to welcome the world. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Ms. Jones?
Do you all anticipate that there will be a need to extend service times?
We will not be extending service times at this time. We may have 1 or 2 conflicts with the late game, which I think we have 2 of. But we're working with the host committee and FIFA to see what time is at the end of that game. We experienced that occasionally with State Farm concerts already, but we don't plan on extending the window of our service time.
All right, Jacob?
Just a quick question. I love the increased headways or decreased headways, increased frequency on the rail. For the bus service and the 30 buses that are staged, is that around disruption issues? So let's just say we have disruption, breakdowns that we want to report them, or is it about if we need additional capacity? Like let's just say we realize that there's a highly frequented route because of hotels to venue or something that we can add on. Just kind of what's the purpose of that?
Yes, so the 30 is for disruption. So if there is a disruption on the rail, we can quickly, get those bus bridges going to get those patrons to the destination.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you. You guys have done a great job. I took the train over the weekend to the SEC district, and glad to see the work that's going on with the escalators and all, because that's going to be a focal point for us. One comment for you, coming and going, the enunciation on the train was not very audible. I'm not sure how that happens. This may be a minor point, but I'm thinking we'll have these guests in from out of town, where they're looking for a
Absolutely. Thank you. Noted.
Mr. Pond?
I might have covered this earlier, but to me, one of the areas that could cause the greatest confusion of new police cars. And Bill, you've gone through a lot to be sure that's in place, but what's your timeline for the operation of it?
So the timeline, can you restate that question?
Just wanted to know if you use a new police car system,
Mm-hmm.
the complexities of people getting used to it.
Yes.
They will be in place long enough where you could deal with any glitches and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the Better Breeze system is switched over at May 2nd, we will have teams that will be out during the special events to assess, any errors that may happen or any glitches that happen on the system as well. Yes.
I have will you just tell us the timing on all of that, of when the new Better Breeze starts working, when there's dual access, when the old goes away, and how that all lines up with FIFA?
So, how it lines up, I'm gonna go backwards first. How it lines up with FIFA is prior to World Cup,
Okay.
so there's no issue with aligning with FIFA. It will, the system will have a transition period from the end of March to May 2nd.
Okay.
Both systems are accessible and usable. May 2nd, the old Breeze system goes away, and the new Better Breeze system is, in effect. It's, the great thing, to your point, Mr. Pond, is open payment system. So you don't need a Breeze card at all. You can just tap your credit card, debit card, mobile wallet, virtual wallet, etc. So you don't need, we're not tied to having all those Breeze cards ready. They will be ready, but we aren't tied to them.
Right.
And one other note on Jacob's great comment on the staging of the buses. We do that staging often. There is secure zones around these major special events, and we like to get those buses staged inside that security circle first, and it allows our bus bridges to start right up. Yeah.
Awesome. So by the time FIFA comes around, everybody will be paying with their
Better
wallet
Breeze.
or their Better Breeze. And if you have an old Breeze card in your pocket and you didn't hear any of this news coming along, there will be signage saying you need a Better Breeze.
Yes, and
Okay.
you Better Breeze, register that card and transfer your balance.
Okay, awesome. Mr. Firestone.
All right, thank you for the information. I imagine that there'll still be some places where there may be some fencing up for construction purposes, like the Indian Creek Station. I don't know if that'll all be finished by the time it gets done. Are we gonna be wrapping those fences or any places where we got construction fence up for this event, or is that just gonna be focused toward Five Points?
The beauty on the construction fence, it's
Yeah.
downtown, around 5 points, just due to cost, frankly.
All right.
We do have our own moratorium that we're putting in place to limit construction. There'll be a little bit of construction around the system, but very minimal, because we want all of our staff, all of our consultants that are willing, and contractors that are willing to help us support in supporting this activity, focus for that 6 weeks on customer service and delivering the best operational service.
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah, and going back to Mr. Hudson's comment, I do think that the audible announcements are really important because often when you're sitting in the car and it's at the station, the way things were designed decades ago, you can't actually see the station name from every seat. And so sometimes you're sitting there thinking, what station am I at? Am I at, Civic Center, or am I, North Avenue? So I do think that is, anything we can do to help people who are new to the system, who don't know what the stations look like when you are, and I know that the new trains are gonna help with that tremendously, but, I think we should go above and beyond on all of that, letting people know where they are.
I couldn't agree with you more, Chair or Member Hudson. The way it's gonna help, obviously on the new train cars, it's gonna be exceptionally audible and wonderful. The way the new rail cars really help is it allows us to remove some of our oldest fleet out. So we've taken the least reliable cars that have those issues repeatedly out of the system with the new rail cars coming in. So that is the real benefit to it. So we'll be taking out the cars that have the biggest issues around them.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is Royale Stewart, our Senior Director Director of Treasury Services, who will be coming to you to discuss our plan of finance around our bonding initiatives for the year. We're going to do this plan of finance now, and then as the bond placements occur throughout the year, we'll have to do this in-depth review. We need to do a touch base.
Okay.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes. Hi. Good morning, Chair Ide, Mr. Hunt, Ms. Allen, and other members of the board. My name is Roydell Stewart. I'm the Senior Director of Treasury Services, and I'm here to share MARTA's plan of finance for the next 6 to 12 months. Next slide. So MARTA has structured its financings to occur in 2 phases. The first set is set to occur this spring, and the second for the upcoming fall. Today, I'll review the authority's planned transactions, the anticipated results, and the estimated timeline. Next slide, please. So based on the terms of MARTA's outstanding bonds, liquidity needs, and market conditions, the MARTA staff has worked with its financial advisor to identify the best transactions for the authority to execute over the next 6 to 12 months. For the first transaction of the spring, MARTA plans to refund a portion of its Series 2015B, C, and 2016B bonds. For the second transaction, we have a required refunding for our Series 2021A variable rate note, and that needs to be done by June 16th of this year. This is a floating rate note with an outstanding balance of $117.5 million, and the refunding requirement is standard for this type of product. Now, depending on market conditions, we may refund about $4.7 million of the 2021D taxable bonds, and we also may tender select maturities of Series 2017 and 2019 bonds, totaling up to $79 million in par value. To meet its short-term liquidity needs, the authority will use its commercial paper facility. This strategy allows the authority to manage interest expense by delaying the issuance of more expensive, longer-term debt. Looking ahead to the fall, MARTA plans to issue $250 to $300 million in new money debt, split fairly evenly between variable and fixed rate structures. A portion of these funds will be used to repay the outstanding commercial paper, and the remainder used to support capital program expenditures and replenish reserves. MARTA will continue to benefit from its strong credit rating in executing these transactions. Next slide, please. So now just taking a closer look at our spring transactions. As I just mentioned, MARTA plans to refund its Series 2015B, 2015C, and 2016B bonds, which have a $108 million par value that's available to be refunded. The bonds become eligible for refunding on April 2nd, so staff is targeting deal execution for early to mid-April. The estimated savings from refunding these bonds are roughly $6.6 million, or 6.1% of par. The projected total interest cost is 3.7%, and I just note that the total interest cost includes all transaction fees. Next slide, please. So looking forward at the to the 2021A bonds, these, like I said, are floating rate notes that must be refunded by June 16th of this year, which is 5 years after they were issued. MARTA has the flexibility to refund this bond earlier on the first business day of any month, and the authority is currently targeting May 1st for execution and refunding. MARTA's strategy is to refund these bonds with a variable rate product to maintain our exposure to variable rate borrowings. MARTA has been reviewing options for with its financial advisor, and currently variable rate demand bonds appear to be particularly attractive, with savings of roughly 30 basis points compared to our current floating rate note. For the next step, MARTA plans to issue an RFI in the coming days to gather product details and finalize its decision-making for execution this spring. So now moving on to the spring transactions. MARTA plans to issue new money variable rate debt with a par value between $100 and $150 million. A portion, if not all of these funds, will be used to repay the outstanding commercial paper. Currently, MARTA's variable rate debt represents about 5% of its portfolio. After issuing this new money debt, exposure will increase to about 10%. This will enable MARTA to take advantage of relatively low-cost variable rate borrowing while keeping risks limited should variable rates rise. Next slide, please. We also plan to issue a fixed-rate new money bond to replenish working capital. The par value for this issuance is expected to be approximately $150 million, with a projected total interest cost of 4.4%. Again, it's worth noting that MARTA's use of commercial paper will allow the authority to issue this new money as late as the fall and thus generate interest savings. Next slide, please. So MARTA has also identified a few smaller transactions that may be pursued along with the primary initiatives just mentioned. These transactions are too small to execute independently, but may make sense when combined with other financings. So MARTA may tender the 2017A, 2017C, and 2017D and 2019A bonds, which in total have $79 million of par that could generate at least 3% NPV debt service savings. A 25% participation rate in the tender could result in $1.1 million or 5.5% in NPV debt service savings. MARTA will also consider refunding the Series 2021D taxable bonds, where $4.7 million of par could produce NPV debt service savings of roughly $300,000 or 7%. The projected total interest cost for this transaction is only 2.7%. Next slide, please. So here for reference, I just display the institutions in MARTA's bond underwriting pool. There is a strong roster of firms available to work with the authority. These firms have divisions that specialize in municipal securities and in executing the types of transactions we just reviewed. MARTA staff is in regular communication with many of the firms on this list, just constantly reviewing deal ideas and transactions that are pitched by the banks. Next slide, please. So here I'll just summarize again the anticipated results from the financings we've just reviewed. Again, in the spring, MARTA expects to generate approximately $6.6 million in NPV debt service savings by refunding the 2015 B, C, and 2016 B bonds. We'll also refund the Series 2021A floating rate note with a variable rate interest instrument. Additionally, depending on market conditions, we may tender various 2017 and 2019 bonds and refund taxable Series 2021D. Again, in the late summer, early fall, MARTA plans to issue $250 to $300 million in new money, split fairly evenly between fixed and variable rate structures. All of these initiatives will be supported by MARTA's strong credit rating of AAA that we have with Kroll and S&P. Next slide, please. So here we can see the proposed timeline for all of the initiatives I just outlined. But before I go into that, I would like to briefly explain MARTA's process for pricing bonds, as we have several newer board members with us. So MARTA prices its bonds the day before a board meeting. The lenders agree to hold that pricing for 1 day while MARTA staff presents the transaction details to the board work session. Then, at the board meeting that follows, staff requests approval of the resolution, and this allows the board to approve the exact pricing of the bonds while lenders only commit to holding their offer for a single day. So now, given that process, the proposed timeline is as follows. In February, MARTA staff plans to issue an RFI for variable rate products and begin evaluating responses. By March, staff will finalize the deal structure, select the deal team for the spring transaction, and hold calls with the rating agencies regarding the planned financings. The target date for pricing the spring transactions is April 8th, allowing for board approval at the April 9th meeting. Following that, staff will execute the refundings, including repaying the 2021A floating rate note on May 1st. In late summer or early fall, MARTA will execute its new money issuance and repay any outstanding commercial paper at that time. Next slide. So with that, I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Hunt, and are prepared for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stewart. Thank the finance group, CFO, and CFO for his leadership. The savings are really needed and would be able to be achieved without one arm, 32 penny
Mr. Gallagher has a question.
Just two questions. One, we're AAA rated. Can't say that enough. And these are the savings you're able to get. We have good fiscal management, so thank you. Two questions. One, the new money, the variable rate commercial paper, you mentioned we typically keep that around 5%. We're going up to 10. Is that about taking advantage of rates, or is that changing how we approach risk as we think about having more exposure?
Yeah, it's kind of both, because right now we're only at 5% variable rate debt, and increasing. I mean, so we are authorized to go up to 20%. So we're being really, really conservative, keeping it at 5%. I think everyone kind of knows that we're moving into a lower rate environment. And so it just makes sense to go ahead and take advantage of that. And again, staying at 10%, even if rates do, move up, we're only still at that 10% level.
Helpful. And then secondly, like when I look at the NPV on the debt service savings, just from my own understanding, we don't come back and touch these later, right? Like these NPVs only are realized if you refinance, stay in it, and capture those savings over time. If you come in, you do this again in 5 years, this NPV is now fake because you paid the fees up front to go and refinance it. So like as we're looking at this portfolio, the stuff back in 2017, none of that's ever been refinanced, correct? We're not like refinancing on this stuff every 5 to 7 years and looking at NPVs that never actually happen.
So we do refinance. So for instance, if we do refinance some of the 2017 bonds, obviously we're not refinancing. If it's still outstanding, we haven't refinanced, that issue that's out there, that series that's out there. So, so to answer your question,
So
yeah,
obviously
no,
the
yeah.
2017 bond, whenever we refinance that, it updates to like a 26.
Exactly.
I'm not going to see a 27 A, B, C, D that's been a refinance of a 27 version.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hudson.
Great report. Help me understand a little bit with our bonds that are at the floating rate right now, and you're saying that the lenders are suggesting that we go to a variable rate, given that the interest rates are projected to be lower. Help me understand the difference between those two in terms of why they're suggesting the variable to be better than the floating rate.
Yeah. So a floating rate is variable. It's just another kind of terminology for it. But with these different variable rate instruments, there are a number of different ways that they can be structured. So right now, our floating rate note, it is priced at SIFMA plus 39 basis points. I won't get into the weeds of this, but it reprices every week. So you can do something that reprices on a daily basis, right? And that's one of the things we're looking at. If you get something that reprices on a daily basis, your interest rate is actually going to will tend to be considerably lower, but then there's a little bit more risk involved in that because you're repricing on a daily. And so when we've looked back on the instrument that we have right now, which is a floating, it's based on an index plus 39 basis points, where 100 basis points is 1%. So 39% of 1% plus this index value is what we pay. So there are a variety of different ways that you can structure these notes. And so we have to look at, and so there's various levels of risk. And if you take on a little bit more risk, generally you're rewarded for that with a lower rate.
I appreciate that explanation because floating and variables pretty much sound the same to me.
Yes.
But that explanation about the extended risk makes a little more sense because it's changing on a more constant basis.
Yeah, because if the lender, if we're repricing it weekly, that means the lender is locked in for a longer period. So the lender is going to charge more. If they're repricing it every day, the lender is not going to charge as much. It's because if something happens in the market, they can just get out the next day. And then with these types of instruments, a lot of times you'll do this with the bank, and the bank will give you a facility where if they have, so the bank is responsible for placing it in the market. Again, a million ways that you can structure these. And if they're not able to place it in the market, then the bank has to buy your debt themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Ms. James.
Thank you for the presentation. You indicated the use of commercial paper under the new fixed rate. Is this the same for the variable
Yeah, so the commercial paper is variable rate, and it is it's a facility that we have. So, for instance, the way the commercial paper works is we would go to the market and say we want to borrow $50 million for, I don't know, 90 days, let's say, and then our bank who markets it for us would go ahead and place that. And then it would price again at the SIFMA benchmark. It's like a benchmark for pricing municipal bonds. And so it would price at SIFMA plus some spread, you know, maybe 10 basis points. And so that would determine what we pay. And so then we'd have that amount for whatever time, whatever duration we selected. With commercial paper, the maximum duration is 270 days. The commercial paper market is huge, over $1 trillion US. So unless there is some catastrophic event, you can always just roll your commercial paper. So when it comes up in 90 days, you can just roll it over, place it again, that kind. And so that's why it's useful. And again, with us being AAA, we should not have an issue rolling over our commercial paper if we want to do that.
Gotcha, thank you for that explanation. I'll rephrase my question. So are the variable rate bonds and the fixed rate bonds going to refund the same commercial paper, or are they two different issues?
So the variable, so let's say, you know, in April, we'll take out about $50 million in commercial paper. And then when we issue our new money, let's say in September, we will repay. So let's say we issue the new money and it's $300 million, 150 variable and 150 fixed. We'll take that 300 million and take some of that and repay the 50 on the commercial paper. I mean, it's all fungible money, so, you know. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Wrapping up our report, Chair, you'll find your packet communications amplification toolkit. And Madam Chair, believe it or not,
I appreciate the very thorough report, and Mr. Pritchett, I believe we have some items for executive session?
We do, have a little bit of everything, some real estate, some litigation, and some personnel.
Okay, all right, if we can, yes, thank you, and everybody in favor? All right, we're gonna go into executive session for those matters, and if you are not somebody required for any of those matters, we can ask you to please leave the room, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Today is February 12th, 2026. It is 2:16 p.m. This is the monthly meeting of the MARTA Board of Directors. Apologies that we started a little late. Our work session that meets prior to this ran over. I know that there are people still coming into the room, so if you're entering, if you can just try to, do so quietly. And we have a lot of people speaking today, so if you're speaking and you're not going to stay for the rest of the meeting, if you could just quietly exit so we could free up some seats for the people who are waiting outside to be able to come in, and hopefully we can run this pretty orderly and get everybody in front of us who wants to be able to speak to the board today. As we start our public comments, Mr. Pritchett, did we have any comments that were submitted via voicemail or email that will be made part of the record?
22 emails.
Okay, 22 emails that will be made part of the record. The public will not be allowed to yield or donate time to other speakers. Each speaker has 2 minutes. You're going to see the timer up there on the screen, so if you would please be aware of that. And we have dozens of speakers today, so I am going to hold people to their 2-minute limit. The public comment portion of the meeting will not exceed 45 minutes. If the 45-minute time limit is reached before public comments are completed, public comments will be suspended and the board meeting will commence. Public comments will then resume at the end of the board meeting. I apologize if that happens to you, but those are our rules to keep the meeting moving forward and make sure we get to the business, but we will stay and hear public comment at the end. If you are not able to stay and provide your public comment, you are welcome to still send an email in. It will be made part of the record of today's meeting, and the email address for that, Mr. Pritchett, would be what?
I do not.
Oh, to just email customer service, which the email address is
CUSTSERV@itsmarta.com.
Okay. So you have that. You always do have that option. We are going to start with the members of our represented workforce who are here to speak to the board today. So first up is Mr. David Ward.
Good afternoon, MARTA Board. My name is David Ward. I am the President Business Agent of ATU Local 732. We are the transit union that moves this city. Welcomes to you, Chair, to CEO Jonathan Hunt. We come in peace today with the aspect that we are looking for better treatment, fair and equitable wages. I'm so proud of my members that's in the building. We probably have about 100 members that's here at this moment, some in the boardroom right now, others in the lobby. Everything that MARTA is looking to do, we can help you achieve those objectives. Funding, or whether you're looking to enhance the service, ATU has had a rich history in pounding the streets, knocking on doors, engaging with the community and public to get these things done. If you do not believe this, just look at the history. When it was transit needed in Clayton County, we were there. When it was funding our special tax funding objectives that had to be committed to, we were there. We were there for Kasim Reed when he was in a very contentious election, and what we thought was had very keen intentions to make MARTA a better service in Metro Atlanta. So once again, you will hear some of the voices from my members. We're moving, ATU is moving in a different objective. We look to be more engaging and just doing things that we believe is going to be in the interest of us being transit workers and being respected. And that starts what we're doing now, and that's in negotiations. Once again, you have my word, Jonathan, chairperson, that we are committed to doing the things we have to do to make MARTA a great place, but in the same aspect, we are looking to be, at the table when it comes to these key objectives affecting the workforce. Thank you. That finalizes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Ward, and congratulations on your new office. Mr. James Atkins.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year. Happy birthday. Again, my name is James Atkins. I'm the Vice President of MARTA and the non-MARTA properties. Again, my president has graciously gave a great introduction into what our intentions are. And what we're doing is we're basically just introducing you guys to who we are and what we are. We've did a reboot, and we've came to Jonathan, Rhonda, and we've always involved them into the relationship on how we want to grow and how we want to move forward. But there's accountability, you guys, and when we get to that level, you know, we want to be able to come to you guys and express ourselves too. I think what has happened in the past that the membership hadn't had a voice and it hadn't come to you guys and spoken and let you guys know what our side is and what's the perspective of the represented employee. Mr. Hunt, since he's been in the office, the respect that I told him that I do believe in the chain of command. And I do believe that before we have this talk with you guys, we want to give MARTA the chance to fix it. But there's going to be a crossroad to one day that we might have to come to you guys, and we just truly want you to listen to what we have to say when we get to that point. These are the people that make it happen. These are the people that made MARTA the best in this industry. You know, and I think that they need to be shown that appreciation. And it's not happening in a lot of aspects. But I've seen change with the new regime, and I'm one to give flowers when it's due. And I can tell you that I see this team working with us, and I just want to continue with it. But I want to let them know that we got options, that we will come to this board at any moment that we feel like that we're not getting the results that we need. So continue to embrace us, continue to pray for us, because it's rough out here. You know, what our agents and operators are enduring out here is tough. So they're making split-second decisions, and it's costing a lot of us. So please keep that in mind, and I do appreciate you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Atkins. Next up, Terrence Gibson.
Good morning, I'm Terrence Gibson. I appreciate the time to talk. I did meet the interim CEO a few months ago. He seems like the person that we need at the helm at this moment. I've dealt with the previous ones for the last 11 years. I am a veteran, which came over to MARTA, and I've seen the good times, I've seen the rough times. I've lost fellow employees needlessly, and we're still here. We're the ones, as they say, move this city, but we don't get the respect to move this city, not from the city and not from you guys. I'm just gonna be honest with you, not from you guys, from the previous administrations. But we're here to let y'all know that we are here to stay, to work with y'all. I'm retired. I retired as the first of the year. First day of the year I retired. The only reason I retired is I had to have surgery. I was coming back, but I can't do it. MARTA was great to me. I'll never tell that what everybody else say. I don't say that. My people work here because they like being here, but they also want the protection. They also want to know what's going on with this company, because we're the ones who make it so everybody else can sit in their seats. Everybody else can get what they're getting, but we're not getting what we need. We don't get any appreciation at Christmas time like we used to. We don't get any appreciation at the negotiation table, which is long past getting that. We don't have the kind of salary everybody else does, but we're the ones who move this city. This state should be MARTA. And everybody as a group, all of them, Gwinnett, Cobb, MARTA, they all work together. The service people work together. Appreciate everybody who works here, because we do the job every day. We may be cold, we may be complaining. When the pandemic was here, we were the ones on the streets and didn't get the appreciation. But we're here to say now, thank you for allowing us to be here, but give us what we're supposed to have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gibson, and congratulations on your retirement. All right, next, Mr. Philip Richardson.
Okay, good evening. My name is Philip Richardson. I'm a 15-year MARTA employee and a proud member of ATU 732. I'm the shop steward at EP&E. And what I'm here to speak on is the economic side of this contract negotiation that we're in. I'm sure you all are aware of the cost of living and how it has skyrocketed in Atlanta. And with our current wages, it's virtually impossible for some to stay in the city that we represent. So what we're actually asking for in this negotiation is that a contract and the proposal that our union is bringing to the table, we're asking for nothing that's unreasonable, but we actually want you guys to consider this pay. That's very important at this time. And like I said, we're looking at our wages compared to our sister agencies out here in the United States. MARTA being the 8th largest in the United States. And when you do a comparison of our wages to our peers, I'm sure you guys are aware, we're way below everyone else. And one of the key things that I noticed in research, the CEO of MARTA is always compensated up in the top tier of his or her peers. And also the previous CEO, Mr. Greenwood there, I noticed he was given actually cost of living allowances along with bonuses. Now those of us that are on the floor working, the regular 9 to 5, 40-hour week personnel, if anyone needs a cost of living, it would be us because of the way these prices are just changing daily. So like in this particular contract negotiation, if it's never done before, we need to be put in alignment with our peers, meaning parity. If we're the 8th largest in the United States, we should be somewhere up there, I think, in the top 5, especially if you take care of the number one person managing the operation. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Next, Andre Barkley.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time. My name is Andre Barkley. I've been in mobility for 25 years. I first started with was MARTA Mobility, but since I've been there, we have been outsourced to several companies. And since we've been outsourced, we have not gotten what we really need over there. We have buses that's not being maintained properly. We have dispatchers, they don't have dispatcher training. So I come to you today and ask you, is there any way y'all can fix this, please? We want to come back in-house. We want to be back good standing with MARTA as far as good benefits, good ridership, and also buses that we could travel in and pick up our passengers and not break it down on 25, 75, or in the middle of the street or anywhere. They're hiring people so that at MARTA, when I first started, it wasn't based on who you know. It was based on what you know. And so we're dealing with a lot of that over there mobility. They're not hiring people that has the quality or the confidence to come in and do the job. It's based on a family-oriented. And it's making us look bad over there in mobility. Because when we go out on that road, we put ourselves in danger out there. And it's like we have no concern or no issue. Because we ride down 25 and a bus cut off in the middle of the street, in the middle of the expressway, in the middle of the street, in the middle of the intersection. It's unsafe condition over there. So we all please bring mobility back in-house. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barkley. Next up, J.T. Jackson.
Hello, my name is JT Jackson. I live in Cumberland, the northern terminus, about a mile from the northern terminus of the 12 bus. I represent District 2 of Cobb County on the county's Transit System Advisory Board, and I'm here to express my disappointment and frustration around the decisions made regarding the Beltline's East Side Rail extension. It is inexcusable to kill a project that this board voted unanimously to advance. The people of this city voted to tax themselves to fund, and was basically shovel ready. As a transit advocate for Metro Atlanta, I fully understand the benefits of the streetcar extension and what it could bring to our region. There have been multiple studies that have been done, so I know this board is also privy to those benefits. In addition to getting back to work on the streetcar as soon as possible, I want to take this moment to ask MARTA to make more immediate changes to strengthen the transit network in our region that already exists as well. The bus-only lane in Atlantic Station that is leveraged by several different services, including CobbLink, is often being bogged down by traffic that shouldn't be in that bus-only lane. Hard barriers and traffic cameras to ticket violators should all be considered to make sure that this vital piece of our regional transit network can be leveraged as intended. I also want to advocate for a bit more cooperation and work between Cobb, MARTA, Gwinnett, the Atlanta Regional Transit Link Authority, ATL. Atlanta has a lot of needs and it's growing. We can't still have the same hub and spoke system that we had in the 90s, the 80s. We have to start changing if we're going to meet the needs of the people of this city and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Next up, Kenneth Decker.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Ken Decker. I've been with the track department for 13 years. I've seen many changes throughout my time here, and one change I haven't seen is correcting the inequity of affordable living in the Atlanta area. We in the track department do a dangerous job, from working near the third rail, working in close proximity to trains moving at or above 60 miles an hour, to working with tools, heavy equipment, and materials that could easily take us out at any time. What we do is essential to the company, yet we're not being valued for the description of our duties. I have 3 kids to provide for, and it's becoming more and more of a struggle to afford the basics in this inflating economy. I remember last contract there were a number of employees that were homeless while working here. Any number above 0 is absolutely unacceptable and should be held in high concern for everyone in this room. I can't afford to be that guy and raise my children as a single parent. It's time for a change, and it's time to correct a long overdue compensation gap. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Next, we have Brandon Sutton.
Good afternoon. My name is Brandon Sutton. I live in Cabbagetown. It's hard to believe that this is the 3rd time in 7 years I've appeared before this board on the same topic. And it's profoundly frustrating as an Atlanta resident, voter, and taxpayer to have to continue to advocate for light rail on the Beltline over and over again. Atlanta used to be bold in its aspirations. I attended the ticker tape parade downtown when Atlanta was awarded the Centennial Olympic Games. I was 16 at the time. 35 years later, I find myself asking why we can't deliver on bold visions like we have in the past. Our city exists because of a rail intersection, and it became a global player. It is today in large part due to transportation and logistics, of which rail has always played a major part. We managed to build the world's busiest airport, birth the civil rights movement, and soon we'll host the World Cup. Who knew it would be easier to achieve these things than it would be to build a light rail line in a corridor we already own with money that voters have already approved? When I see the disappointing votes in counties such as Cobb and Gwinnett that repeatedly decline to expand transit, the refrain we hear is often one where voters just don't trust MARTA. While I certainly understand there is much more to the story and unfortunate legacy attitudes and beliefs at play, the lack of trust is a real factor. And as a result, the region's traffic woes continue with no end in sight. As a voter and Atlanta native that trusted that we would spend the more MARTA tax revenue on light rail and the Beltline, among other projects, I find the latest developments and secretive initiatives to stop the Streetcar East project to be a colossal betrayal of trust. If this is allowed to stand and the vision we have spent over 2 decades planning for is halted, I can't imagine ever voting for another sales tax referendum ever again. Atlanta's transit future is in your hands, and the decisions that you make on rail will have ramifications for generations to come. Please do not betray the public's trust by halting the Streetcar East extension. History will remember this moment. I hope you will deliver on this crucial promise to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Next, we have Regina Torres.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. My husband and I are proud residents of Midtown Atlanta and strong supporters of the Beltline vision, including and especially the rail. We see it as a direct contribution to smooth, easy movement between neighborhoods and building a shared culture, as well as enhancing human-centered design throughout the city. We're genuinely excited for what the Beltline, including the rail, represents for a more streamlined Atlanta. That said, after years of shifting timelines and unclear updates, we're disappointed by how often the goalpost moves, both in public and behind the scenes. So my question is this: what specific corrective measures will MARTA, Atlanta Beltline, and the City of Atlanta together be putting in place to demonstrate trustworthiness regarding Beltline outcomes? For example, independent third-party audits of project progress, regular public and concrete progress reports, and we would love to hear other ideas as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Next, we have Jay Miller.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm here to support the decision to stop planning of the East Side Rail. And here's why. You know, as we all know, transit is a means to an end. The end is to get people efficiently and expeditiously from point A to point B. There's a lot of ways to do that are currently on hand. Buses, there's shuttles, there's EV vehicles, and there are driverless vehicles. And I would point out, and you probably know this, driverless shuttles are being implemented at the world's busiest airport, Atlanta, right now. And they're also planning to implement driverless vehicles in the Cumberland district near Truist Park. The reason, to me, is clear, because this is the most cost-effective way of doing things. We know, I don't even think there's a dispute about this, that it's going to cost billions of dollars to add rail, and it's going to create a lot of destructiveness to adjoining property and businesses. We don't need that when there are other options available. There is something that the Beltline does need, and I don't know if this is directly in your jurisdiction, but we need a separate path for wheels. Right now, if you happen, and you probably have, gone on the Beltline on a weekend when it's a sunny day, it's treacherous out there, perilous. And there have been a lot of accidents, and something more severe could happen, I hope not, if we don't address that issue. They need to be separated. That is an urgent matter. And finally, you're going to hear from a lot of people who disagree with my opinion, no doubt, but I'd like you to keep in mind that the mayor suffered a lot of vitriol and angry messages when he decided to postpone work on East Side Rail. He won 85% of the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Next, we have Mike Green.
Thank you all for having me, and I appreciate you listening to my comments. I am here to applaud your decision to reevaluate some of the priorities that were given to some of the projects commonly referred to as the More MARTA program. Although some of those projects garner a certain high level of emotional connection, that does not necessarily mean that they are the right projects for our system. As we know, and I certainly don't need to remind y'all, is that no project is a silver bullet to solving the complex issues that are presented in a multi-intergovernmental jurisdictional organization like MARTA. To say so is naive at best. So as you undertake this work, I ask that you take into consideration three things. More than three, but these are the three that I'd like to share. One is there are precious limited resources. We can ill afford redirecting a large portion of that pie to neighborhoods that are extremely wealthy and heavily amenitized. Number two, there are traditionally underserved communities in this city. I certainly do not need to remind anybody who has been here long enough. I have lived in the metro my whole life. It is obvious to all who have been here. Those folks are often the ones who most seriously need the help of this system to get to work and to make a livelihood. Number two, I urge you to strongly consider the overall impact on the operational expenses. I don't need to remind y'all that our operational expenses are very difficult, so the technologies that we select and their impact on the long-term operational expense is very important. And the final one is to consider the unbelievable advancement in technologies that has occurred while we've delayed some of these projects, and to evaluate their impact on some of the shorter runs across the city that could be better served in other methods rather than the ones that necessarily MARTA would provide.
Thank you so much, Mr. Green. Next up, Ken Edelstein.
Good afternoon. I'm Atlanta resident Ken Edelstein. More than 2 decades ago, as editor of Atlanta's alternative newspaper, I was one of the first journalists to advocate for the Beltline and the TAD that it funds in. That position has been validated by the amenity development engine and micromobility corridor that the Beltline currently is. I'd like to applaud the MARTA board for several recent initiatives. Among these are the next-gen bus route revamp, which will increase ridership without increasing operating expenses. At the same time, we're seeing real progress on at least 2 bus rapid transit projects. I think we're all frustrated that more MARTA has moved too slowly. There are lots of reasons for that. One big one is that too much money and attention has been spent spinning our wheels on the outdated idea of a Beltline rail loop. Beltline rail is so controversial because it would deliver very low ridership for the $3.5 billion price tag, and it would divert money from more impactful projects that serve more transit-reliant neighborhoods. The streetcar extension east is particularly problematic. It proposes to shoehorn a 40-foot wide double track along the already overcrowded East Side Beltline. It would jeopardize the Greenway's phenomenal success and disrupt dozens of small businesses that thrive on foot and bike traffic. And this is key. It concentrates precious transit capital in a part of town that is well-heeled, well-served, and not as transit-dependent as less wealthy neighborhoods. I want to thank the MARTA board and staff for supporting the mayor's call to deprioritize this wasteful, inequitable, and divisive project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edelstein. Next, we have Jeff Rader.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the board. I am Jeff Rader. I'm a city planner and a lecturer at Georgia Tech. Some of you know me as a former DeKalb County Commissioner, but before that, I helped to write the Trust for Public Lands Emerald Necklace Report, which laid out the blueprint for an Atlanta Beltline as it exists today, a string of parks and urban development connected by a multi-use trail, an engine for economic, community, and green development. I'd like to thank staff at MARTA, the City of Atlanta, and Atlanta Beltline, Inc. for halting spending on the final design of the Streetcar East extension. It was well known before the vote by the Project Governance Committee that Mayor Dickens had called for a shift away from the extension east towards more equitable and impactful transit projects. There was nothing inappropriate for a working staff committee to stop spending scarce more MARTA funds on a zombie project. Further spending on the Streetcar East would have been an irresponsible waste of public money. Nothing about the decision violated the letter or spirit of the Georgia Open Meetings Act, and it was made in complete accordance with the intergovernmental agreement that governs More MARTA. That's precisely the way that the IGA was intended to work. Going forward, MARTA should work with the City of Atlanta to optimize the More MARTA project list to maximize service to a core ridership. With regard to the Streetcar East extension, the planning team should abandon the Auburn-Irwin alignment and evaluate continuing on Edgewood to the Inman Park Station, fulfilling Atlanta's priority for rail connections to the Beltline, not on the Beltline. Thank you, MARTA board members, for supporting a legitimate decision to stop throwing money away at a project that isn't going to be built anyway. Now let's move on to focus on projects that deliver badly needed services for underserved communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rader. Next, Vanessa Owens.
Good afternoon to the board. I want to say good afternoon to my fellow ATU. I am a true believer of having human beings actually work. It's crazy in Atlanta with the traffic really stupid, and you think that a vehicle will be able to move through without a human being. Okay, let me just hurry up, because one of the things that I really want to say, I want to talk about some of the things that I heard them say. I'm a retiree. I came up with Mr. Dumas in the early 80s. I know the people, or I can tell the people that Mr. Dumas trained. I can tell the people that need to be touched and trained by Mr. Dumas. He should come back. And especially during the World Cup, if we really want the world to see us shine as human beings and moving with common sense, dignity, and respect, because I see that on the top of the bus. And sometimes it's just words. I want to also say that I believe some of the fellow comrades should have mental days off. Possibly you all too. But definitely people that's behind the wheel on the buses. If you think that shouldn't happen, try riding it and see exactly what they face on a daily basis. I want to speak of certain buses that are overcrowded. 196, it makes great revenue. So you should have long buses. You should have multiple buses. I have been on that bus. I'm an old lady now. And what I mean by that is my lungs, my kidney, all those things are older. I should have a pass to be able to get into the restrooms as an employee, although I'm a retired employee, because of my older organs. And I'm speaking for the other representatives as well that have worked through. Do I have any? I guess I'm up. But I'm coming back.
All right, thank you so much,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Owens.
Thank you.
Next, Quad Thornton.
Good afternoon, Board. As I've moved down to Atlanta about 4 years ago. I have an autistic special needs son, come down here especially for MARTA, and he's a big fan of the Beltline. But I'm a retired licensed general contractor, and for things to just be halted in construction and stuff, being a general contractor, I wouldn't have been able to retire at the age of 50 if I just have no communication or and just halt things. If there's a sheetrock shortage, I had to tell people, I can't finish building this. So to have no communication and stuff, but then the contract you guys signed for all this stuff, to do a halt on it, I'm sure somewhere in that contract says that after so many days, 90 days probably at the max, that the prices of material are going to go up. So it's going to increase our values on this project because we've just halted it. And the public and as a voter, we should know why. That's my main thing. And to have a special needs son that relies on us, and that's why I moved down here. And it's, I'm vice president of Atlantic Station Civic Association, and MARTA's a big part of us. All right, so if we could do communication is the key in everything, especially for us voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Next, I'm not sure I can quite read it, Samil Honda? Not. Sakil?
Are you talking about Beltline Rail now? I think this is you. Yeah, I apologize. I don't want to read your phone number or your address out, but
Good afternoon, board. My name is Satya Ban. I'm a Atlantic Station resident and the co-lead for Atlanta Families for Safe Streets. I want to speak about something larger than one project. The East Side Beltline Rail was presented to the public as a planned investment in Atlanta's future. First phase of a transit loop around the Beltline that had moved through years of planning and design. Then the work was halted abruptly. Not through a full public vote, not through a transparent reprioritization process, but through a closed committee decision following a shift in mayoral support. Regardless of where someone stands on the rail alignment, the sequence matters. When projects that have been publicly advanced are quietly paused, it sends a message that long-term commitments can dissolve without public accountability. This city has heard promises about transit expansion for decades. If plans can be reshaped without clear criteria, without public explanations, and without a definite alternative, then those promises become conditional. Atlanta deserves infrastructure that isn't conditional on quiet decisions. My ask is simple. Clarify the decision-making authority. Publish the criteria for reprioritization, and ensure that any major shifts in transit investments is debated and voted on publicly. Trust in transit is built on follow-through. Thank you.
thank you so much. Next, we have Angel Poventude.
Appreciate everybody's time this morning, afternoon. Transit on the Beltline is very important. When we built the East Side Trail, we spent $6 million a mile because that corridor is prepped for transit. When we built the rest of the Beltline, the west side and the the south side, we're now spending $15 million a mile because we're prepping the corridor for transit. That's money that's already been spent. Not just the money that you all would spend, but money that the city's already invested over the last 12 years to prep the corridor for transit. The first piece of trail that opened was in 2012, the East Side Trail. It was the first piece. Nobody knew if it was going to work. Nobody knew if they would go out there. But we built the west side, and now we're building the south side. And 20,000 people a day use the East Side Trail. It's that first piece. If you think about MARTA, when MARTA was first built, the first piece was from Avondale to Georgia State. Probably people argued that it wouldn't be used by anybody. There was no use to build it. It didn't go anywhere. But now we have a great system that goes to the airport and downtown and Sandy Springs. You got to build that first piece. We really need this to happen. The future growth of our city is relying on it. So I encourage you to think about not just today and not tomorrow, but the next 10, 20, 50 years, the kind of city that we want to be. I drive freight trains for the railroad. My freight train goes between Emory and the west side. I can make that trip in about 8 minutes on a freight train. We need transit on all of our corridors that are traffic free. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad Raber. Set that one aside. Michael Keith. Let me just double check that they're letting everybody in because. Okay. All right. Evan Phillips. All right.
Hi, I'm a Midtown resident and immensely disappointed with each and every one of you. The betrayal you have put in front of this city, it's clear that you don't care for your fellow Atlantans. To go behind our back after we have all voted in favor of rail expansion and end it in a backroom meeting is unconscionable. Every day we fail to get shovels in the ground building new rail infrastructure is another day that we are not a world-class city. A rising tide lifts all boats. The way that we lift the tide of your average Atlantan is by rail expansion. You've already killed the Beltline rail after we've spent millions and millions of dollars in design. As a design engineer, that upsets me. As someone who took MARTA here, that upsets me. You clearly don't care for this city. I'm curious who's paying you on the back end. Have a good day.
Thank you. Matthew Rao.
Good afternoon, Chairman Ide, the other members of the MARTA board, and CEO Hunt. We're hearing a lot of reaction today to recent revelations that the Program Governance Committee voted last May to end final design work on the Streetcar East extension on the Beltline, the only rail project in MARTA in the project delivery mode. While many rightly focus on the misuse of authority and the usurpation of your voice as the sole entity that can substantially alter MARTA projects, I would like to focus on its most important consequence, the further delay of project delivery in the MARTA program. We are 9 years and almost $800 million in tax receipts collected. We are only one transit project is under construction. The transit plan has been a ping-pong ball, batted here and there by each successive mayor of the city, and by reluctance to move forward inside MARTA. Chairman Ide said that project delivery is a top goal of hers for MARTA. We agree with her. If you believe that too, you must show progress now and not in the next decade. You've spent 6 years and more than $10 million getting this project nearly shovel-ready, reversing the decision you unanimously made in 2023 to construct Streetcar East, an already funded project, is no way to advance the MARTA program. No other rail project can be completed in less than 7 to 10 years. When you keep changing the plan, you make it impossible to deliver. And that's not the outcome I believe you want. All eyes are upon you now, here and afar. According to the IGA, what the PGC did last May was to issue you a recommendation. We urge you to reject this recommendation, and instead you must find a way to both press forward with the final design and construction of Streetcar East and enter the project development phase for the other portions of the Beltline loop. Stopping Streetcar East won't accelerate the delivery of those needed sections of Beltline rail. It will hinder them by making the entire program more expensive and further delayed. It increases the odds that MARTA cannot deliver any rail expansion at all. Taxpayers and riders can't accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Next, we have Kevin Porter.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Porter. I'm here today to talk to you in support of the Streetcar East extension. I'm a Reynolds resident in the Reynoldstown neighborhood. I live less than 200 feet from the Beltline corridor. I voted for more MARTA, and I continue to support Beltline rail in general. In 2016, 71% of Atlantans voted for the more MARTA SPLOST. This wasn't a wish list. This wasn't an undefined vote for more transit. This was a vote to tax ourselves in support of specific projects. And to see the Streetcar East extension now being killed silently, even though it's a funded, paid project, is incredibly disappointing. Second point about me, I'm an aerospace engineer by trade. That means I like to look at the details of things. I like to look at technical specs. And Streetcar East, just when I look at it as an engineer, it makes sense. It's the densest alignment in the city of Atlanta that doesn't have high capacity transit. It's going to use existing infrastructure. It's going to use underused infrastructure of the current streetcar. And it just makes sense to be the easy first step. So if we can't take the easy first step to advance more transit in Atlanta, I find it hard to see what we're going to do next that's not as easy. So basically I'm saying let's do the easy thing first. Let's take the win and continue to develop Atlanta transit from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Next, we have Jason Lathbury.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Jason Lathbury, and I'm speaking to you as both a downtown of Atlanta resident as well as the Transportation Committee Chair for the Georgia Sierra Club. This November will mark the 10-year anniversary of the MARTA vote, with 71% of the city approved to tax ourselves to expand and improve transit here. Now, 10 years later, and despite that overwhelming support, there's only a single transit route that's currently under construction. Worse yet, we are finding out via reporting from the AJC that projects that are deep into development are getting paused with no clear future or path forward. Speaking as someone who voted for more MARTA and speaking for an organization that actively campaigned for that tax and to get this agency, this authority, more money, we're frustrated. We're tired of the delays. We want to see things move forward. We want to see y'all succeed. We understand the complexities, we understand the concerns, but we want to see things improve. That's why I'm here to directly ask the MARTA board to move forward on next stage planning, design, and engineering work for a number of projects. First and foremost, Streetcar East, including its section along the East Side Beltline. We also want to see Streetcar West, South Side Beltline, and North Avenue Phase 1 move forward as well, because we want to see things make progress. We don't want to see any more delays. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Lathbury. Next, David Serrano.
Hey, how are you guys? Hello, MARTA board members. My name is David Serrano, and I am a recent sheltered resident of Atlanta and frequent user of MARTA trains here in the metro area. I use it for commuting to work from where I live on the west side to the east side. I don't own a vehicle. If there was an east side Beltline rail extension, I wouldn't have to walk about an hour to work from the current station where I get off at from MARTA. It would be really nice to actually just transfer and get to a place that's actually less than an hour of walking. The East Side Beltline Rail Extension project was approved by your bosses, the voters of Atlanta, almost 10 years ago. The More MARTA referendum was passed by almost a unanimous decision by the voters in 2016, and nothing has happened in 10 years, and voters are waiting. Since some of you have been on the MARTA Board of Directors for a while now, some of you are new, in all, you all are overseeing this decade of stalling, this decade of planning, this decade of analysis, public engagement, and nothing is happening. In fact, you are now conducting backroom decisions in shade on this project without proper oversight and participation from elected officials that you're supposed to do, and away from the eyes and ears of the public that voted you guys here in this position, as well as voting for this project. Why? What are you hiding? Is it incompetence? Is it corruption and greed? Is it a decade of failure? Regardless of what it is, the time is now to move forward and progress. As one of the most powerful entities in Georgia, we're asking you to take action. Coordinate with your interagency counterparts. Start the work on the East Side Beltline rail extension now, as voters have demanded for over 10 years now. Do your jobs, or voters, the people, will make sure you won't have one in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Serrano. Having a little trouble with the handwriting. Is there a Gary?
My name's Gary Eitlet, and I'm a regular writer of the MARTA system. As I understand it, they're looking to address to enlarge the area of service for the bus line, the regular bus, in certain routes. It should be the main priority of the board to manage the area currently serviced. Many of the existing routes are important. For example, bus 27 is the main transportation for many seniors, and I understand that route is going to be changed. conditions in the current system make it virtually impossible for wheelchairs to be used in areas. The 5 Points entrance from Forsyth to, you can't use a wheelchair to get from there to the northbound train. It's virtually impossible. Bus riders cannot rely on service or doctor's appointments. You might as well forget a doctor's appointment because they're rarely on time. I waited for an hour for a bus on November 28, December 3, and January 9. These are just examples of the problems I've had. Let's see. One of the eastbound 36 did not even run eastbound when I was there. You call customer service about information on the buses or the trains, and they often give you the wrong information. Very disappointing. I don't know if any of the board members have ever ridden MARTA Mobility. You can often wait for 2 hours to be picked up. So you cannot use this for doctor's appointments. I don't know if anybody has ever ridden the bus on number 110, which is, the buses are rarely on time. Often there's no driver, so you just have to wait another half an hour. I've waited over an hour several times, like I said, on these routes, which is just an example of what I have had to do. Again, I ask you to reconsider these major changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And is there somebody from customer service here who could get some more detail on this? If you will turn around by the back door, this young woman can get some more details on your issues and provide some more information on the bus changes. And as we do roll out the bus network redesign, please do continue to email our customer service and let us know how we're doing and any concerns and comments that you have. All right, next up, Bakari Height.
Good afternoon, MARTA Board. My name is Bakari Height. I've been a car-free citizen in downtown and midtown since 2009. I've ridden and depended on MARTA ever since I went to school at Georgia State and Georgia Tech, where I earned my degrees in both public policy and city and regional planning. I've seen MARTA at many lows, and given the lack of follow-through of what I've seen lately, I'm afraid of what the future may hold. I want to turn your attention to the list of projects that are down the pike. The revival of the Nancy Hanks passenger rail line to Savannah, the revival of the Floridian passenger rail line to Nashville, and as well as future high-speed rail to both Birmingham and Charlotte. All these projects are expected to run through and end in Atlanta. MARTA is the largest regional transit agency of its kind down here. We need to start acting like it and take more of a leadership role to get some of these projects off the ground, from getting to, around, and around the city and in and out of the city. Also, I implore you to finish these more MARTA projects that I voted yes on in 2016. Ever since then, all I've seen are new mechanisms to get us to pay more money, as well as the future eradication of critical bus service that if you're not able-bodied, will soon be out of reach. No updates on the bus hubs, arterial rapid transit, and no infill stations to access one of the hardest things to get to, the Beltline. I can't afford any more money to get on transit, much more or less waste time walking between places I should be able to access via streetcar. It takes an hour to get from Ponce City Market to Memorial Drive by walking, which is absolutely inequitable and inefficient given the people it displaced can no longer afford to live here nor afford to patronize these businesses because they can't get there. MARTA has to start thinking equitably about both intercity and intra-city transit differently, especially with the pending federal reauthorization bill. That could be the end of the federal formula funding. And if you don't understand anything that I just said, then you're probably in the wrong job. Please do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Stephen, I don't know if it's Imlay.
My name is Stephen Eimel, and I am a resident of Old Fourth Ward. Atlanta claims to be a world-class city, but the people who rely on its transit would be the first to call BS on that statement. Since the Beltline was conceived, the project was deeply tied to transit. Behind closed doors and at the behest of Atlanta's oligarchy, major decisions are made to ensure that the future of Atlanta is one of gridlock and car dependency. The decision to cancel the East Side streetcar extension is one such decision. There are cities across the world that are examples of how much better Atlanta could be with real transit. So why are we allowing an unelected group of people in a closed-door meeting to decide the future of a city whose transit they don't even use? I have been lucky enough to visit some of these places where streetcars exist and buses transport people daily. They have multiple lines, streets dedicated to their operations, and buses that make up the remaining network. These cities have not ground to a halt. The streetcars do not menace the public. They run on time and are reliable and a critical way to get around these cities. Our streetcar has the potential to be a truly useful part of our transit infrastructure if we extend it to and onto the Beltline. We have the plan, the public has the desire, and the density is there and will only grow as Atlanta does. We pride ourselves in the Atlanta way, but the Atlanta way seems to be making promises in public and then breaking them behind closed doors. Beltline Rail has been planned, it is wanted, and above all, it is necessary. Many people here speaking against this today are wealthy property owners nearby the Beltline with the time to be here. But who is here representing the working class that actually uses the transit in this city every single day? We don't need these technology-based bullshit approaches. We don't need driverless pods. We need Beltline Rail now. Thank you.
Thank you. Cleary Mahaffey.
Hi. Test 1 2. There we go. Hi. My name's Clary. I'm a resident of Midtown. The other day, I was walking down the Beltline. I saw an older woman, probably 80 or 90 years old, struggling with a walker. Okay, cool. Struggling with a walker. I had errands to run. I probably took my dear sweet time about them. I was probably, occupied for 30, 40 minutes before I came back. By the time I came back, she hadn't made it, but a quarter mile. We built Beltline for transit, and yet here we are having our elderly and disabled residents struggle like this. And in her, I see my own mother, who has terrible back issues and will probably be in the same position in 20 years. We voted on Beltline Rail a decade ago to solve this problem and many other transit woes facing our city. Why do you keep moving the goalpost? A city council member was just elected running primarily on Beltline Rail in a five-way race, earning 3 times as many votes as the next highest contender. How much clearer can we make the people's will? You have a democratic mandate to fulfill what we voted on 10 years ago and what we continue to vote on, what we continue to say we want above all else. Now, in a world where democracy is weaker than ever, you cannot violate this sacred trust that the voters have entrusted you with. I hope you'll make the right decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then Tom Wyant.
My name is Tom Wyant. I worked in the early 2000s for the Atlanta Regional Commission, where we evaluated a variety of new rail projects. One was found to be the single most productive in the 13-county area, delivering the most net new patrons to the system. That project was the east side portion of the Atlanta Beltline. 10 years later, I was working for the city of Atlanta. I oversaw the construction of the first phase of the streetcar and negotiated the original agreement between the city and MARTA for operations and future development. It was clearly understood that the streetcar was only the first phase of an exciting new era of rail development. By then, the astonishing growth of the East Side Trail was proving our early forecasts were correct. Then we took the question to the voters of the city through the More MARTA program, with the streetcar extension to the East Side Trail as the first of many expected steps. The voters approved the tax and the projects. The city and MARTA approved the implementation process. Your responsibility now is to honor that technical analysis, that electoral process, that funding approach, and execute what we committed to the citizens of Atlanta. The East Side Trail is not, quote, too dense for transit. It's perfect for transit. Rail transit on the whole Beltline will be a long-term process, but you must begin it now. Each of you should visit the Peachtree Center station and look at the map of the original MARTA system, which was promised in 1971. To this day, it remains unfulfilled. Do not let that happen again. Then look at the streetcar and the Beltline and just build it. I'd like to leave you an extended copy of my comments along with a copy of the map so you don't actually have to visit the Peachtree Center station. I encourage you to look at it, though.
Thank you, and you can leave them, will you wave in the back of who will get the, yeah, thank you so much. We have hit and gone over a little bit our 45-minute period for public comment, and so we're going to pause it for now because we need to get to our business meeting. If you have signed up for public comment, whether you're here in the room or whether you're downstairs in the atrium, and you are not able to stay till the end of our meeting, please feel free to send us an email. It goes to custservice@itsmarta.com, so custservice@marta.com, or you can call and leave a message with customer service, 404-848-5000. So we do want to get everybody's comments. This is unusual that our meetings are going so long today, but we do appreciate people's time in coming. But we're going to turn to the part of our meeting where we review recommendations coming out of our committee meetings, and then if there are still people when we are finished with that who want to make their comments in person, we will still be here and we will take it back up then. So I'm going to pause the public comment period of our meeting right now and ask my colleagues, may I have a motion to approve our January 8th, 2026 board meeting minutes? And a second, and if there are no comments, please vote. All right, our minutes have been approved. We're going to move to our board committee reports, and we're going to have the business management report with Sarah Galisa.
Madam Chair, the Business Management Committee convened on Thursday, January 22nd, 2026, and approved the following resolutions. First, resolution authorizing the award of a contract for drug and alcohol compliance software, RFP-P 50717. Next, a resolution authorizing the solicitation of proposals for the procurement of the Employee Assistance Program services, RFP-P 50815. Third, resolution authorizing the award of a contract for access cameras for closed-circuit television CCTV upgrade World Cup project, IFB B 50779. And fourth, resolution authorizing the award of a contract for wide area network aggregation redesign and switch upgrade, IFB B 50647-A. I request approval of these resolutions. The committee also received a briefing from the MARTA Equal Employment Opportunity Plan update. Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 resolutions before us. Motion and a second. And please vote. All right, those 4 items have passed. Next up, we're going to have Planning and Capital Management with Devon Hudson.
Madam Chair, the Planning and Capital Programs Committee met on Thursday, January 22nd, 2026, and approved the following resolutions. Resolutions authorizing the solicitation of qualification statements for the procurement of architectural and engineering planning and preliminary engineering services, AE 50793. Resolution B, resolution authorizing the solicitation of proposals for the procurement on-call planning support service, RFP 5P 50816. And also resolution authorizing the modification of contractual authorization for Clayton County multi-purchase operations and maintenance facilities, the demolition, It's IFB B50330. Madam Chair, I request approval of these resolutions.
Thank you. We can get a motion and a second and open the vote for these three items. All right, those three items have been approved. We are next going to move to Operations and Safety with Ryan Loke.
Madam Chair, the Operations and Safety Committee convened on Thursday, January 22nd, 2026, and approved the following resolution. A, resolution authorizing the award of a single-source contract for technical support and spare supply services for the Atlanta Streetcar S70 light rail vehicles, RFPP PP 50693. I request approval of this resolution. The committee also received the following briefings: bus maintenance, operational excellence update, MARTA REACH policy package, rail and streetcar key performance indicators quarterly briefing. Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
All right, thank you. The vote is open. And the resolution passes. And our final board committee report is External Relations with Segura Jones.
Madam Chair, the External Relations Committee convened on Thursday, January 22nd, 2026, and received the following briefings: Legislative and Community Engagement Update, Marketing and Sales Calendar Year 2025 Highlights, and 2026 Updates. Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
My mic isn't on. Thank you on that. Mr. Hudson, do you have a question or you're, okay. And then I believe we have 3 items that came out of executive session?
Yes, ma'am. Number 1, need a motion to approve the workers' compensation settlement of the Kelly Moore claim in the amount of $275,000.
All right, I saw Mr. Pond and Ms. Hardage, motion and second, and we'll do a hand vote. All right. That passes.
All right, number 2, I need a motion to approve a settlement in the amount of $299,999.99 in the Sumaitra Khan versus MARTA lawsuit.
All right, I saw Mr. Loke, Ms. Hardage, approval, raise your hand. That passes unanimously. And the final one?
Final one, need a motion to approve a land swap in which MARTA will exchange MARTA parcel number D5020, a 7.59 acre parcel west of the Perry Yards Maintenance Facility, with Stono Charleston LLC for its 0.58 acre parcel adjacent to the MARTA Bankhead Station.
All right. All right, Ms. Hardage, the quick draws. Everybody in favor? All right. That item passes. Thank you. That concludes the reports out of our committees and out of our executive session. Do we have any more members of the public who are going to make in-person comment? Well, let us just double check that.
Sorry, I didn't know you were looking for a hand. Chairman, there are people downstairs who are. Thank you. Hi, my name is Richard Corey. I am a resident of Atlanta. I'm here because I was disappointed by the recent AJC article that I read by Sarah Gregory. I am very much in support of the streetcar extension. I actually live near the Beltline. I chose the home that I did in part because it was near the Beltline and because it was within walking distance of a rail station. I think that this is very important for our public infrastructure. These plans were set in motion originally by an idea from Ryan Gravel and his graduate thesis in 1999, almost 30 years ago. Nothing about this project has been a surprise except for the recent rug pull we've seen with the East Streetcar extension. You know, this project represents the single biggest expansion in our rail network we've seen in recent memory. The engineering studies have been done for at least the first phase, the right-of-way acquired. And let me just say, I used to be in elected office. I served as an alderman for a city for 8 years, so I know how difficult it can be to get a project to a shovel-ready state. And so because of that, I know that if we don't pursue this, it will be a missed opportunity. I also know how projects can be silently stifled. We used to call it death by committee. And I know some people will say it was technically in the minutes, but I would also say that it was buried in the minutes of a committee that nobody knew would be the final deciding factor in this. So I'm just asking you to do the right thing and right this wrong and support the East Streetcar extension. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Miss in the yellow jacket, I apologize, I don't have your name in front of me.
Good afternoon, everyone on the board. My name is Jill Lindsay. I'm coming with concerns for Old National. I am one of the adoptees for Old National, and MARTA has 35 stations, and I'm coming to talk to you guys about the litter. We have nonprofits that pick up litter every month on Old National, and we know that the contract for outsource was not renewed. And we've been calling the customer service to talk to someone in public affairs. And when I call, I get a runaround. So my thing is, if you're going to be a partner in our city, in our communities, we need answers as far as who's going to pick up the litter, what day, and what time. Because we've been serving Old National for 20 years. And I just feel I shouldn't have to come up here to talk about these things when I should be able to reach somebody through customer service. And the customer service here is not right. I'm from Las Vegas, and customer service in Vegas is its own spot, because you could lose your job for not talking to taxpayers. We are taxpayers. We are constituents. We are partners with MARTA. So my thing is today, I'm reaching out to find out who's responsible for the contract that replaced outsource to deal with the stations that we have now on Old National. And now we find out that you got the next gen project coming to our communities. So now they're coming outside of the corridor, but now they're going to be on the streets in communities where people walk their dogs. So now we're going to deal with there's no trash cans on those poles. I took photos of all those poles on all our streets in our corridor, and there's not one campaign for litter, and that is not environmental friendly. If we're going to be environmental friendly, we're going to compete with all the other cities. And I'm from the West Coast, and I'm talking about litter, and I'm talking about litter every day, 7 days a week. MARTA is running, bus 89. And another bus that they talk about. But my thing is, I'm coming because I'm on the south side of Georgia, and I'm seeing all the complaints here, but litter. We're talking about litter, 7 days a week. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you will just hold on for a minute, we're going to have somebody. You can go back and sit down, but we're going to have somebody come in and so that you can talk to them and we can move this forward. Thank you. I don't have the list, but if you all would just come up one by one if you have signed up to speak. And you have 2 minutes, timer's on the screen. Thank you.
Hello. You called me up earlier. My name is Michael Keith. It is absolutely chaotic out there. I don't know if you guys are able to hear all the cheers that have been coming downstairs. There have been dozens of people in Beltline rail shirts. It's been great to see. It is a little bit unfortunate that the way to get everyone really excited is to have the Atlanta Journal-Constitution do a big report where the CEO of MARTA, the CEO of Atlanta Beltline Inc., and the mayor decided to secretly have a meeting where they were going to try and kill a transit project that we paid for and we voted for. And I think if it was a good idea and they decided to own it, they would, instead of being cowardly and doing it behind closed doors. And I think because they knew it was a bad idea, that's why they decided to be real secretive about it. And I think it's really unfortunate that the way our city operates is we seem to have a reporter who will go in and force transparency. So I think that that's been a real issue, and the fact that we need this transit line, the East Side Trail, not just the East Side Trail, the entire Beltline, we need to get started on it. We are near shovel ready. We have so many studies that are done. We need to just stop talking about it and start building. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. If you could just introduce yourself, since I don't have the list of names.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Marissa Keith, and I'm also with Beltline Rail. Like Michael just said, there are so many more people here than there were last March, when I think there was about 6 to 10 of us who heard Andre and Courtney English come up here and announce their new transit vision. I think myself walking along from where the streetcar extension would go into Krog, it's very ironic that the MLK Center is right at the point where we're talking about extending the streetcar, and a decades-large project that would be connecting people from MARTA, from where they live, to the economic opportunity on the east side, while we have time to plan and build phase 2. And so I think that everyone is being very vocal about what must be done and why it must be done. And I'm wondering what organizations need to get together to move forward. I know Liliana Bakhtari had mentioned to the commissioner that people kept on passing the buck in each meeting that she was asking questions to, and that they were waiting to hear your thoughts today before pulling everyone together in a room and having the Atlanta Regional Commission, the city, MARTA, Beltline Inc., and say, why have we failed to build anything at all? And I really appreciate your time. I know everyone is doing hard work throughout the year, and I just wanted to result in actual transit eventually for Atlanta. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who else has signed up to speak? Any?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Sarah Hamzawi. I'm a physician living here in Atlanta, and I'm here to support the Beltline, the Beltline Rail. I'm sorry. I represent myself, but I also speak based on my experience caring for patients in the Georgia state on a daily basis, many of whom suffer from health conditions that are impacted by what we call social determinants of health, and one of those is access to public transportation. There's ample evidence that public transit is a public health issue. That's access to doctors, that's access to health care. And saying that a walkway is sufficient access in Atlanta is extremely ableist. We have many examples of people who spoke today who walk over an hour to work. And the people who can walk are walking over an hour, let alone people who live with disability. So, and this is not someone who's different from you and me. 3 in 4 people in their lifetime will develop a disability. So this directly impacts everyone. 70% of people voted for this, and we already are paying taxes for this. So the funds are there, the support are there. So why aren't we approving this? Why aren't we building this? It's the select privileged who don't feel impacted by this who are making decisions on behalf of everyone. Failure to build public transport is directly attacking the most vulnerable in our community. It's a form of eugenics against those who are most disadvantaged. And it will cost millions of dollars in down the line public health costs. So if we're not spending money on the Beltline Rail, we're spending money on healthcare that's not being accessed to people who need it the most. As a physician, it's my duty to care for our community. And as council members, it's your duty to represent the community. If your job is to use the money that we're paying for in taxes to care for us, then I implore you to do your job just the way I do my job in caring for our community on a daily basis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fernando Munoz. I can see on all your faces that you're a little tired, a little jaded. That makes sense. It's been a long day, and there's been a lot of feedback. There is an estimate that by 2050 we're expecting 2 million more people in Atlanta. We're running out of lanes, extra lanes to add, and traffic, as you can imagine, as you've experienced, I'm sure, is not a pleasant experience. And so the question is, what do you do? what's the next step forward. There is no silver bullet. Nothing is going to magically make the traffic go away, transport, be incredible. But you can start with small steps and you can expand. And after all, success builds success, or builds upon success. And so I'm here talking about obviously about the Beltline Rail. Any kind of light rail project, any kind of mass transit is going to take a while. We have something that was ready to go, and on the 1 yard line it got stopped. And so again, Beltline Rail will not magically fix everything, but it builds an excellent foundation upon expansion. So we can keep you have Beltline Rail, it connects to infill stations, and all of a sudden you have a much better transport system, and now people you can do more with it. So what I would like is to understand why the project was stopped, what are the metrics that were used, and what are the plans for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jackson Wessels. I've lived in Atlanta for the past 8 years, and I currently live on the west side. I'll preface this by saying I'm incredibly appreciative of MARTA. I wrote it in today, and I'm appreciative of the fact we have it at all, and all of the people that work hard every day to keep it running, despite not getting any state funding like every other comparable heavy rail system gets. That said, it's going to look pretty bad when we cross the 10-year mark of the More MARTA vote, and the only project we have to show for it is the Summerhill BRT. It looks even worse when the mayor meets with stakeholders behind closed doors, installs the only other near shovel-ready rail project that we have indefinitely. It makes a mockery of our potential. If the same vote was being held by the people of Atlanta, I assure you the same decision wouldn't have been made. We are angry that that decision has been made without our input. The people of Atlanta yearn for car independence. Beltline Rail is a keystone step in granting them that. Light rail is a proven technology that many cities, including Charlotte nearby, have built and are currently building. Other commenters suggesting alternative experimental technologies are speaking in bad faith, to be blunt. Those technologies aren't proven, won't support the volume light rail would, and will cause similar levels of disruption to businesses. Going with those experimental risky technologies is how you end up with the laughable joke of the Vegas Tesla loop instead of successful transit projects like Charlotte's Link's Blue Line. Restart the East Side extension immediately and fast track development of the other Beltline rail segments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who had signed up to speak? All right.
Hello, board members. I'm a Georgia State student. I went to school down the street. Well, I'm going to school down the street. I took the train to get here. The Beltline needs to have transit. It's the densest part of the city that doesn't have rail service, and the arguments for not having rail service being that we could expand the current trail wider or pursue other alternatives. But in reality, expanding the trail isn't really going to do anything to address the amount of people that are coming there. We need a reliable way to get to Ponce, to get to the shops, to get to our homes and businesses that we have along the Beltline. And not to mention the infrastructure is already there, the streetcars already there, the maintenance facility is already there. You've done the work for 10 years planning what we should do, what we can build, and it'd be a folly to just not capitalize on it now because of a backroom deal that happened. And I've heard a lot of constituents come up here and say that it'd be better serving more transit-dependent communities. But transit isn't a welfare service. It's an everyone service. It's an accessibility issue. For people to access their jobs, their homes, their schools, anywhere, green space, anything, they need to have reliable transit that isn't entirely car dependent. And when we have places that are car dependent, we end up with situations like Atlantic Station, where it's 20 minutes to walk from Art Center Station, and that's uncomfortable across an overpass of 10 lanes of freeway. That's not comfortable. We have people walking miles to get to the Beltline. So I believe, it is my opinion, that we should extend the streetcar up the Beltline to Ponce. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, come on up.
Hey, how you doing? All right, so real quick, I'm not here to talk about streetcar. I'm here to talk about the reduced fare passes for fixed income, reduced fare passes for the day passes, the 20-day passes, and 30 passes. We need those available for purchase. People on fixed income, they really can't afford to pay, 30 days like $95, the 20 days $42. The 7-day pass is $23.75. We need a reduced fare pass for those products, and we still haven't had those. I need those because it makes it so much easier just to buy a pass for 30 days, and then you can get on the train, get on the bus without having to, having to pay fare every single time. We also need a cashless system where we can just basically tap and use our phones with Apple Pay, Google Pay, whatever, so we don't have to dig for change, or if we don't have change, worrying about getting change and things like that, where you can just use your phone, pay, get on and get off the train seamlessly without any issues. That's technology. If I can use Apple Pay at Walmart, I should be able to use Apple Pay on MARTA. And then the next thing is, so with the changes of the routes that are coming up in April, a lot of the buses are being removed. Like the 8, the 19 is being removed, and in that area, there's no MARTA Reach. They need to put MARTA Reach in that area where all those buses are not going to be running in April. There's this huge gap of space, of area that, like, there's places that I go to conduct business, I can't get to it anymore. So they need Reach there in that area so that when, I get off the train, I can get Reach, get to that area, and then head back to the train station. A lot of the Reach areas are on the south side mainly, but not on the north areas, like North Druid Hills, Claremont Road, those areas. There's no Reach, and they need to have Reach in those areas as well. Around the Peachtree area, Brookhaven, Chamblee, all of those need a Reach area to get to and from the train station. And then one last thing. We need to kind of reduce the sync times between buses and the trains. If you've ever gotten on the bus and you get to the train station, the train has already left. So now you're sitting waiting another 30, 45 minutes for a train to show up.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, from the train to the bus.
Yep.
When you get off the train, there should be a bus at the bus loop there ready to go.
Yep.
Why are we waiting another 30, 45 minutes, another hour sometimes in certain stations?
I've got to stop you because you're at 2 minutes,
Okay,
but
okay.
I will tell you, go on the MARTA website. The Better Breeze system, I can say at least one thing that's going to make you happy. March 28th, the new Better Breeze system is bringing the cashless tap that you can pay with your phone, you can pay with a credit card, you can pay with all of that. So that is something we've had in the works for a long time, and it's coming, and that should make it a whole lot better.
Okay.
Also, the new bus network redesign, we talked about this at the work session, but if people weren't here for that part, is rolling out. We're going to roll it out with what we've done, but we are still going to take, comments. So you can email customer service, which is custservice@itsmarta.com, with any of your concerns about areas that may or may not, that you think we should consider adjustments in the future. So appreciate your feedback that way, but be on the lookout in late March to be able to, tap and pay and go.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
One last one. Okay, here you are.
Hi, my name is Chasen Wakefield. I'll keep it quick. I'd like to say I really enjoy riding the MARTA. I got to ride today here, and it was a lot of fun. I hate being stuck in my lonely car. Please don't make me buy a Waymo. I hate all that crap. So anyway, love trains and more public transportation, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I think that we have gotten everybody who stayed to comment. We really appreciate your input. And again, for the folks who had to leave, hopefully we have their green sheets of their written comment. They can send it in to email as well. Is there anything from the members of the board? All right, we are adjourned. And for the members of the search committee, we are going to move to the board lounge. I will tell you, for anybody who's here, we are going to immediately go into executive session because it's a personnel matter, so there won't be any discussion that's open to the public. So thank you for coming today.